Chapter 1420. Later on, Fang Hui knew there was no hope for him to seek revenge. After he became an inner court disciple, he sought the position of an outer court deacon to take charge of Mound Hill City and became the city governor of Mound Hill City. 10 years ago, Lu Huan had brought Zhou Qi here. He had once again recalled his dusty memories, causing him to be filled with grief and indignation. However, what could he do? He could not defeat Lu Huan. In terms of status, he was far inferior to Lu Huan. Due to this reason, he could only endure the humiliation until today. I know there's no hope for me to seek revenge on my own, and I've thought of committing suicide. However, I decided to live on in the end. I'm destined to be inferior to Lu Huan in this life, but it doesn't mean the disciple I train is inferior to the disciple he trains. Fang Hui said through gritted teeth. His eyes were bloodshot and filled with hatred. Naturally, there was something he did not say. He hoped the disciple he trained would avenge him one day. Even if he did not kill Lu Huan, he would die without regrets if he could teach Lu Huan a lesson. It was because of this obsession that he managed to drag out an ignoble existence until today. One must admit that when Fang Hui's words entered the ears of Duanling Tian and the other three, it was like a sudden clap of thunder. It shocked them so much that they were stunned. It did not cross their minds at all. To think that their teacher and master actually had such an unbearable past. They could feel pain, anger, helplessness, unwillingness, and other emotions in Fang Hui's tone. They could understand it. The reason I'm telling all of you this is mainly because I want to tell all of you one thing. Even if all of you enter the Moon Illumination sect in a few months' time and become outer court disciples, you'll still have to face suppression from Lu Huan's people. Fang Hui looked at Duanling Tian and the other three solemnly. Now you can consider. Do you still want to participate in the Moon Illumination sect's entrance assessment and enter the sect? The moment Fang Hui's words left his mouth, Duanling Tian and the other three could not help but frown. Don't tell me they dare to kill us? Duanling Tian asked. They won't dare to kill anyone in the sect even if they have 100 guts. Even if it's a remote place, it's still covered by the divine consciousness of a few saint stage powerhouses in the sect. Whoever kills will be severely punished by the sect. Fang Hui enunciated each word clearly. Of course, if there's an irreconcilable feud between the people in the sect, you can apply for a life and death duel. That way you won't be breaking the sect's rules and you won't be punished for killing. In other words, if we enter the Moon Illumination sect, they'll at most make things difficult for us, but they won't dare to kill us? Jianghu asked. Something like that. Fang Hui nodded. Teacher, what is divine sense? Duanling Tian asked curiously. Divine consciousness can only be formed by Saint Realm experts. It's a type of spiritual energy. The divine consciousness of a Saint Realm expert can cover a wide area and monitor that area. Fang Hui said, you'll find out about this when you break through to the Saint stage in the future. Saint Realm? Duanling Tian did not think much of what Fang Hui said, but Ling Yun, Jianghu, and Jin Yuanbao were shocked. Based on what their master said, this senior brother Duan actually had a chance to break through to the Saint stage? With your senior brother Duan's innate talent, it's only a matter of time before he breaks through to the Saint stage as long as he doesn't die prematurely. Fang Hui seemed to have noticed the shock on Ling Yun and the other two's faces. Based on his words, he was very confident in Duanling Tian. I'll give all of you a month to think about it. I won't blame you even if you don't enter the Moon Illumination sect. However, once you enter, you'll have to be mentally prepared. Fang Hui continued, after all, I'm the one who recommended all of you to enter the Moon Illumination sect. That's equivalent to being branded with Mound Hill City's label, my label. Fang Hui's face was solemn when he reached the end of his sentence. Apart from Duanling Tian, Ling Yun, Jianghu, and Jin Yuanbao nodded solemnly. Duanling Tian, on the other hand, had already made up his mind when he heard Fang Hui say Lu Huan and his disciple would not kill anyone in the sect's estate. He would enter the Moon Illumination sect. Although he would be suppressed, it would not be a life-and-death situation. There was only motivation when there was pressure. Duanling Tian had always believed in this. I'll let Lu Huan and his disciple be my touchstone then. Duanling Tian's eyes gleamed as he thought to himself. Sigh. Fang Hui seemed to have recalled something as he let out a long sigh before he turned around and left the front courtyard. Duanling Tian glanced at him and realized Fang Hui's silhouette was a little desolate. It seems like Su Qi's betrayal has dealt a huge blow to teacher. Su Qi's betrayal was also out of Duanling Tian's expectations. Although he did not have much contact with Su Qi, in his opinion, Su Qi was not a coward who would live an ignoble life. I've misjudged him this time. Duanling Tian sighed inwardly as his eyes gleamed coldly. Su Qi, I'll let you know. Even if you're on Lu Huan's side, I'll still step on you. Since Duan Lingtian truly regarded Fang Hui as his teacher, he could empathize with Fang Hui's humiliation. And Lu Huan and his disciple. The moment Duan Lingtian thought to this point, the coldness in his eyes intensified. After taking a deep breath and suppressing his anger, Duan Lingtian turned around and returned to his room to cultivate. He took out the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda and entered the second level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. It was less than half a year before he would join the Moon Illumination sect. I hope I'll have successfully broken through to the perfection mortal shedding stage by the time I join the Moon Illumination sect. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. After cultivating in the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda for 3 days, Duan Lingtian was awakened by a knock on the door. Only a day had passed in the outside world. Teacher? When Duan Lingtian opened the door, he saw Fang Hui. He could not help but feel a little surprised. Duan Lingtian, have you thought about it? Do you want to join the Moon Illumination sect? Fang Hui asked. Duan Lingtian was stunned. Although he already had an answer in his heart, he could not help but feel a little surprised when Fang Hui came to ask him about it after only a day. Did he not say he would give him a month to think about it? Since there's no danger of death, there's nothing for me to be afraid of. Duan Lingtian smiled. Based on his words, he made it clear that he still intended to join the Moon Illumination sect. There's no danger of death in the sect's estate. Fang Hui's face turned serious as he said, however, there's no guarantee of safety outside the sect's estate. You must know this. Even if someone was killed outside the sect's estate, they might not be able to find out who killed him. If I'm killed outside the sect's estate, I can only say that I'm useless. Duan Lingtian's eyes gleamed as he smiled faintly. I didn't misjudge you. Fang Hui took a deep look at Duan Lingtian before taking out a spatial ring and passing it to Duan Lingtian. Cultivate well before you head to the Moon Illumination sect to participate in the entrance assessment. This is? Upon seeing Fang Hui's action, Duan Lingtian could not help but be stunned. There's a saint-grade pill, the sensory pill, and some saint stones inside. They'll be helpful to your cultivation. After Fang Hui finished speaking, he did not wait for Duan Lingtian's reply and directly stuffed it into Duan Lingtian's hand. Then he turned around and left, no longer disturbing Duan Lingtian's cultivation. Teacher, I'll seek justice for you one day. Duan Lingtian promised as he watched Fang Hui's desolate silhouette leaving. He did not know why, but he felt a fire burning in his heart. This was his promise to Fang Hui. His voice was not loud, but it entered Fang Hui's ears clearly. Justice. Fang Hui's body paused for a moment. After a slight tremble, he continued to walk forward. I believe in you. Fang Hui's voice became a little hoarse. He could not hide the excitement in his tone. The reason he, Fang Hui, had dragged out an ignoble existence until today was to seek justice. Back then, Lu Huan had kidnapped and forced his newlywed wife to death, but he did not seek justice. Until today he still could not seek justice. The reason he recruited so many young geniuses was because he had pinned his hopes on those young geniuses. He hoped they would seek justice for him. Now that someone had promised to seek justice for him, and this person had a high chance of fulfilling his promise, how could he not be excited? However, Fang Hui's feelings were still complicated. Back then, when he took Su Qi as his disciple, he had pinned all his hopes on Su Qi. When he saw Su Qi's rapid growth, he saw a glimmer of hope. In his opinion, with Su Qi's innate talent, he would definitely be able to fulfill his unfulfilled wish as long as he grew stronger after joining the Moon Illumination sect. He would seek justice for him and allow his wife to die happily. However, who would have thought the person he had pinned all his hopes on would betray him? Fortunately, he still had Duan Lingtian. Currently, Duan Lingtian was like a ray of light in the darkness that guided him forward. To put it simply, he had already regarded Duan Lingtian as his last hope. Duan Lingtian did not disappoint him. Don't tell me I can't have my cake and eat it too? Fang Hui's heart was filled with bitterness. Whether it was Duan Lingtian or Su Qi, both of them were people who could seek justice for him after they grew stronger. However, just like how he could not have his cake and eat it too, he had lost Su Qi. Duan Lingtian closed the door and entered the second level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda again. Sensory pill. He did not lack saint stones among the things Fang Hui had given him. However, he lacked the saint-grade sensory pill. This is a 2-star sensory pill. This is a 3-star sensory pill? Duan Lingtian claimed ownership of the spatial ring Fang Hui had given him. When he was about to take out the sensory pill to assist his cultivation, he realized there were not only 2-star sensory pills in the spatial ring, but there was also a small portion of 3-star sensory pills. They were all Saint-grade sensory pills. The effect of the 3-star sensory pill was undoubtedly much better than the 2-star sensory pill. It's time to change my spatial ring. When Duan Lingtian recalled his spatial ring was refined by himself, he decided to use the spatial ring Fang Hui had given him. Currently, he could not raise the grade of his spatial ring because he could not produce a weapon flame. However, the spatial ring Fang Hui had given him was of a higher grade than all the spatial rings he had. It was a human rank prominent saint weapon, so he changed it without hesitation. The 2-star sensory pill is already so effective. The 3-star sensory pill must be even more powerful. Chapter 1421. After today's incident, Duan Lingtian felt even more pressured. The law of the jungle in the Dao Martial Saint Land was even more exaggerated compared to the Cloud Continent and the overseas Saint Islands. Zhou Qi, the direct disciple of Elder Lu Huan of the Moon Illumination sect, had barged into the city governor's estate of Mound Hill City alone and killed 2 Saint Rudiment stage powerhouses in the city governor's estate before severely injuring the city governor of Mound Hill City. He, Ling Yun, Xionghu, and Jin Yuan Bao did not even have the strength to fight back against the arrogant Zhou Qi. All of this was because Zhou Qi was too powerful. The strong were respected. This was an eternal truth that applied no matter where one went. Today, Zhou Qi had further explained this concept to Duan Lingtian. With the 3-star sensory pill, I'm more confident of breaking through to the perfection mortal shedding stage before the entrance assessment of the Moon Illumination sect. Without any hesitation, Duan Lingtian began to cultivate after consuming a 3-star sensory pill. Unknowingly, a saint stone had appeared in his hand. 9 Dragons War Sovereign Technique, 9 Dragons Form. As he cultivated the mental cultivation method, the heaven and earth spirit energy in the air and the saint stone surged into Duan Lingtian's body continuously. They were transported by the 9 dragons and circulated in his body. After completing the circulation, the heaven and earth spirit energy transformed into true energy and merged into the basketball-sized Qi-Si between Duan Lingtian's brows. The true energy in his Qi-Si was increasing every second. It's so fast. Duan Lingtian noticed that after the 3-star sensory pill took effect, the heaven and earth spirit energy he sensed was much richer than before. His cultivation speed had become faster as well. Under such a cultivation environment, Duan Lingtian's cultivation base rose rapidly. Naturally, Duan Lingtian could not keep cultivating like this. Occasionally he would leave the 7 Treasures exquisite pagoda and his room to relax. A month's time passed very quickly. At this moment, Ling Yun, Xionghu, and Jin Yuan Bao had also replied one after another. Ling Yun and Xionghu had decided to join the Moon Illumination sect. Jin Yuan Bao, on the other hand, chose to give up. Master, I'm sorry. I can't join the Moon Illumination sect. I'm not afraid of them, but I am afraid that they will attack my family. Under the gazes of Duan Lingtian, Ling Yun and Xionghu, Jin Yuan Bao bitterly smiled as he explained the reason why he gave up. Although Jin Yuan Bao chose to give up, Fang Hui did not blame him. It was undoubtedly normal for Jin Yuan Bao to be wary of Lu Huan and his disciple. Master, I'll definitely teach that traitor Su Qi a lesson for you in the future. As for that Zhou Qi, I will definitely catch up to him and even surpass him in the future. Xionghu said solemnly. His words were filled with strong confidence. Fang Hui was naturally moved by this. Even though Ling Yun didn't say anything, his sharp gaze was enough to explain everything. Duan Lingtian would occasionally leave the city governor's mansion and go out to relax. However, most of the time he would go to Hong Yu's house to see the little girl, Shi and play with her. Compared to the past, the little girl, Shi was like a completely different person. She had become even more cheerful. Brother, Shi will perform for you. The little girl waved her fists excitedly as she blinked her big eyes and said to Duan Lingtian. What's the performance? Duan Lingtian asked curiously. Then he saw a scene that shocked him. As the little girl whistled, a few figures appeared in all directions of the courtyard. In just a blink of an eye, these few figures appeared around the little girl. Duan Lingtian stared at them and saw they were animals like cats and dogs. However, due to the different environment of the Dao Martial Saint Land, the cats and dogs here were different from the ones on the mortal continent. The cats here were as big as adult dogs on the mortal continent. The dogs here were as big as tigers on the mortal continent. However, the cats and dogs surrounding the little girl were unusually docile. They lay there and allowed the little girl to ride on them. They even ran around happily with the little girl. Upon seeing this, Duan Lingtian was stunned. Shi's innate talent as a beast tamer far surpasses mine. Hong Yu suddenly appeared next to Duan Ling Tian and said with a complicated expression as he looked at the little girl who was riding a big dog around the courtyard. As it turns out, she has an innate talent as a beast tamer. Duan Ling Tian finally understood. He was wondering how a little girl like Shi could make these cats and dogs so docile. As it turned out, she had an innate talent as a beast tamer. In the beginning he even thought these were the cats and dogs that Hong Yu reared at home. Only now did he realize they were stray cats and dogs. Brother Ling Tian, I want Shi to become a beast tamer, Hong Yu said seriously. Hong Yu said to Duan Ling Tian seriously, she really has this innate talent. I don't want this talent of hers to be buried. Big brother Hong, I don't have any objections as long as Shi is happy. Duan Ling Tian said, I only hope that she can always be carefree. Everything else is not important. All right. Hong Yu nodded. Big brother Hong, I'll be leaving in 3 months. I'll come to see all of you and bid farewell before I leave Mount Hill City. I'm going to focus on cultivating during this period of time. Duan Ling Tian greeted Hong Yu, and Hong Yu expressed his understanding of the situation. He knew Duan Ling Tian would be leaving Mount Hill City in 3 months to participate in the Moon Illumination Sect's entrance assessment. As Duan Ling Tian's brother, it was only natural that he hoped Duan Ling Tian would have a bright future. After returning to the city governor's estate, Duan Ling Tian focused on cultivating even more. I've underestimated the perfection mortal shedding stage. The difficulty of breaking through from the mastery mortal shedding stage to the perfection mortal shedding stage is more than twice as difficult as breaking through from the intermediate mortal shedding stage to the mastery mortal shedding stage. Initially, Duan Ling Tian planned to break through to the perfection mortal shedding stage before joining the Moon Illumination sect. Soon he realized it was not easy to break through to the perfection mortal shedding stage. At the very least, he had underestimated the difficulty of breaking through to the perfection mortal shedding stage. As time went by, he had cultivated on the second level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda for a whole year, but he still had not broken through. Moreover, only 2/3 of the true energy in the Qi in between his brows had been accumulated. He was still 1/3 away from filling his Qi with true energy. A year on the second level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda was equivalent to 4 months outside. At this moment, there was only a month left before the entrance assessment of the Moon Illumination sect would begin. The time was getting closer and closer. Unknowingly, more than 20 days had passed. The day for Duan Ling Tian, Ling Yun, and Jianghu to depart to the Moon Illumination sect had arrived. Get ready. We'll depart early tomorrow morning. In the morning, Fang Hui called Duan Ling Tian, Ling Yun, and Jianghu to greet them. Duan Ling Tian did not have much to prepare. They would depart the next day. He left the city governor's estate and went to Hong Yu's house to accompany the little girl, Shi, for the entire day. He was only ready to leave in the evening. Shi, I'm going somewhere far tomorrow. I'll come back to see you after a while. Duan Ling Tian said to the little girl. Come back soon, brother. The little girl was much more sensible now. If she was still the older, she would have cried a long time ago. Okay. Duan Ling Tian nodded. After patting Shi's head, he looked at Hong Yu and his wife. Big brother Hong, sister-in-law. I'll leave Shi in your care. Don't worry. Hong Yu and his wife nodded. Brother, take care of yourself. I believe with your innate talent, it won't take long for you to make a name for yourself in the Moon Illumination sect. Hong Yu said. Early the next morning, Duan Ling Tian, Ling Yun, and Jianghu were brought out of Mount Hill City by Fang Hui, the city governor of Mount Hill City. After leaving Mount Hill City, Duan Ling Tian and the other 2 could fly on their own without the flight-prohibiting formation. They followed Fang Hui to the Moon Illumination sect. Jianghu, why have you broken through to the perfection mortal shedding stage? Soon, Duan Ling Tian realized Jianghu could still keep up with him and Ling Yun even though he was flying with his physical strength and the true energy in his body. I just broke through a month ago. Jianghu grinned and smiled brightly. However, Fang Hui and Ling Yun did not seem surprised. It was obvious they had known about it. Why didn't you tell me earlier? If you had told me earlier, you and I could have exchanged some pointers. Duan Ling Tian smiled. Senior brother Duan, I can't even defeat senior brother Ling Yun, let alone you. Jianghu said with a teary face. Now that Su Qi had left, Duan Ling Tian had become the eldest senior brother. Naturally, even if Su Qi did not leave, Duan Ling Tian was still the eldest senior brother in Ling Yun and Jianghu's eyes. They knew a little about Fang Hui forbidding Duan Ling Tian from sparring with Su Qi. They knew their master was worried Su Qi would not be a match for Duan Ling Tian. Fang Hui slowed down on purpose since he had to take care of Duanling Tian and the other two. They only arrived near the Moon Illumination Sect after 2 days. We'll see the Moon Illumination Sect after we pass the mountain range in front. Fang Hui said to Duanling Tian and the other two while looking at the mountain range that looked like a long dragon. The three of them shuddered and snapped back to their senses. When Duanling Tian heard this, he focused his eyes and looked forward. He could not see anything with just a glance. However, as he activated the strange pupil in his left eye, he soon saw a huge mountain gate not far behind the mountain range. It looked majestic. Above the mountain gate, there were 3 large words carved in a flamboyant style. Moon Illumination Sect. I did it. Just as Duanling Tian was about to take a closer look at the Moon Illumination Sect, a surprised voice resonated in his ears. He could tell it was Huolao's voice. Huolao, what did you do? Duanling Tian was stunned. I've successfully refined the dragon blood of the little devil dragon. Huolao replied. Upon hearing Huolao's words, Duanling Tian seemed to have recalled something. His eyes lit up and his breathing quickened due to his excitement. Huolao, did you really refine it? Duanling Tian's tone seemed to contain slight excitement mixed within. He could not help but feel excited. Huolao had told him what refining the dragon blood of a 5-clawed devil dragon meant 3 months ago. Divine Dragon Phenomenon. Chapter 1422. 3 months ago, Duanling Tian had purposely asked Fang Hui, the city governor of Mound Hill City, about Saint Rudiment Stage Martial and Dao cultivators. According to Fang Hui, the early and intermediate Saint Rudiment stage was just an elevation of true energy. It was the real transformation when one reached the mastery stage. A mastery Saint Rudiment stage powerhouse could cast the true energy consolidated weapon technique. They could use part of their true energy to consolidate a divine weapon phenomenon to attack their opponent when they were fighting. For example, Zhou Qi, the Moon Illumination Sect's inner court disciple who came to the city governor's estate of Mound Hill City half a year ago, had consolidated a gigantic hammer with his true energy. It was a divine weapon phenomenon. If he did not cast the divine weapon phenomenon, Fang Hui, who was at the intermediate Saint Rudiment stage, might have been able to hold on for a while. However, Fang Hui had no way of fighting back when he cast the divine weapon phenomenon. Duanling Tian had a deep impression of that scene. When the gigantic hammer divine weapon phenomenon slammed down, it was as though a gigantic mountain had collapsed. It was as though it could suppress everything. The true energy consolidated weapon was a technique at the mastery Saint Rudiment stage. Once one entered the perfection Saint Rudiment stage, one would master a new technique, the true energy consolidated beast. As long as a person had merged with the blood essence of a fierce beast or a saint beast and had broken through to the perfection Saint Rudiment stage, he would be able to consolidate a fierce beast or a saint beast phenomenon with his true energy. That kind of phenomenon was called the variant beast phenomenon. The more powerful the blood essence of a fierce beast or a saint beast was merged with, the more powerful the variant beast phenomenon would be. Fierce beasts and saint beasts would only have blood essence when they were alive. If they were dead, the blood essence would evaporate and disappear without a trace. When Duanling Tian killed the 5-clawed devil dragon, he did not know about this when he entered the Saint Rudiment stage. Therefore he did not think about taking its blood essence. Naturally, he might not be able to take it even if he wanted to. After all, he had relied on the Devil Seal tablet to kill the 5-clawed devil dragon. It was a close call, so he did not have the chance to take the 5-clawed devil dragon's blood essence. Fortunately, Huolao has a way to refine the ordinary blood in the 5-clawed devil dragon into blood essence. Otherwise, I would have missed this opportunity. Duanling Tian, a Saint Rudiment stage. Although Elder Hua was the 3-legged golden crow, the divine sun bird in the ancient myths in Duanling Tian's past life, he did not know that there was a true energy consolidated beast technique here due to the different cultivation laws in every mundane planet. After learning about this, he told Duanling Tian that he could refine the ordinary blood of a 5-clawed divine dragon into blood essence. After all, Duanling Tian had just learned from Fang Hui that the technique of a perfection Saint Rudiment stage powerhouse was related to the blood essence of fierce beasts and saint beasts. He felt a little depressed. This was because although he had the 5-clawed demonic dragon's corpse, he did not have its blood essence. Saint realm Saint Rudiment stage Saint. Fortunately, Huolao had mentioned a way to remedy the situation. Otherwise, Duanling Tian would have been extremely depressed. And now, hearing Huolao say that the refinement was successful, Duan Lingtian couldn't help but feel a little excited. To him this was good news that would have a long-term impact on his future strength. It was as if he could already see the scene of him condensing the five-clawed divine dragon Dharma idol in the future. According to teacher, the variant beast phenomenon formed by powerhouses above the perfection saint rudiment stage not only has a form and spirit, but it also has a force. If I can condense the five-clawed divine dragon Dharma idol, wouldn't the Dharma idols of ordinary beasts collapse when the dragon's might is displayed? With this thought, Duan Lingtian became even more excited. Hualao, keep the five-clawed devil dragon's blood essence first. I'll get it from you after I settle down in the Moon Illumination sect. Although Duan Lingtian couldn't wait to fuse with the five-clawed demon dragon's blood essence, he still suppressed the desire in his heart. No matter how anxious he wasn't in a hurry. Right now he was still far away from the perfection saint rudiment stage. When Duan Lingtian returned to his senses, he realized he had already arrived near the Moon Illumination sect's monastery gate. He could see behind the Moon Illumination sect's monastery gate, but it was cloudy so he couldn't see what was inside. Let's walk into the monastery gate. When they arrived at the Moon Illumination sect's monastery gate, Fang Hui's expression was solemn as he called out to Duan Lingtian and the other two before descending from the sky. Duan Lingtian and the other two followed suit. Under Fang Hui's lead, Duan Lingtian and the other two arrived at the Moon Illumination sect's monastery gate. However, they were stopped by the two Moon Illumination sect's disciples who were guarding the monastery gate. I'm the city governor of Mound Hill City, leading the young geniuses of Mound Hill City to participate in the entrance assessment organized by the sect's Ming Tian. Fang Hui took out a token and waved it in front of the two Moon Illumination sect's disciples. On the token, apart from the word City Governor of Mound Hill City and Outer Court Deacon, there was also Fang Hui's name. Oh, it's Deacon Fang. When the two Moon Illumination sect's disciples saw the token, they immediately welcomed Fang Hui in with a smile. Although the Outer Court Deacons did not have any real power in the sect, both of them were only Outer Court disciples so they did not dare to act presumptuously in front of the Outer Court Deacons. The entrance assessment will begin tomorrow. All of you should rest well today. Get some sleep tonight and recharge your energy so that you'll be ready for the entrance assessment tomorrow. Fang Hui said as he led Duan Lingtian and the other two inside. With the three of your abilities, it won't be difficult for you to pass the entrance assessment and become an Outer Court disciple. Soon after, Fang Hui brought Duan Lingtian and the other two to the outer area of the Moon Illumination sect's estate. There were simple houses that were specially made for the participants of the entrance assessment to stay in. There was another row of houses that looked more spacious and luxurious. However, these houses were not as simple as the simple houses. There were only 18 of them. Fang Hui registered with the person in charge and obtained the residence passes for 4 of the houses. The residence passes were hung on the doors of the houses with the words occupied written on them. It meant that the houses with the residence passes were occupied so that nobody would enter wrongly. Master, will Su Qi be participating in the entrance assessment tomorrow? Jianghu asked in a deep voice as his eyes gleamed brightly. Since he's Lu Huan's disciple, naturally he doesn't have to participate in the assessment. Not only that, but he can even enter the inner court and become an inner court disciple with Lu Huan's recommendation. Although it had been half a year since Su Qi's betrayal, one could still see some strange emotions on Fang Hui's face. Traitor. Jianghu said resentfully. Jianghu. Fang Hui said with a frown, it's fine if you say these things in private when you enter the Moon Illumination sect. If you say these things out loud, Lu Huan's people won't let you go easily. The sect forbids killing. Do you think I, Jianghu, am afraid of them? Jianghu said with a glare. All in all, when the 3 of you enter the sect, try to keep a low profile. If Lu Huan's people think that you're stubborn, they might feel bored and won't make things difficult for you, Fang Hui said seriously. I don't want to cause too much trouble for all of you because of me. A moment of forbearance is for a better tomorrow. If we want to avenge Master, we must become stronger first. Otherwise we're destined to be tortured, Ling Yun said. Fang Hui nodded. That's right. Fang Hui agreed with Ling Yun's words. Duan Lingtian stood at the side and did not interrupt. His eyes gleamed brightly, making it difficult for others to guess what he was thinking. Forbearance? A faint sneer appeared at the corner of Duan Lingtian's mouth. Duan Lingtian hung the residence pass with the words occupied on one of the houses. Since the people from Mound Hill City were the first to arrive, the houses were all empty. Therefore he chose the house with the best location and the best air. The house that Master lives in is different from ours. 18 houses. Could it be that they correspond to the city governors of the 18 cities under the Moon Illumination sect? Duan Ling Tian glanced at the 18 spacious houses opposite him and thought in his heart as he guessed. At this moment, no matter if it was Fang Hui, Ling Yun, or Jianghu, they entered the house one after another and closed the door. The sign that said, "Occupied," on the door told the people outside that there were already people inside. Duan Ling Tian opened the door and walked in as well. The house was simple. Apart from a small window that he could barely lie down on, there was nothing else inside. This house was obviously much worse than the wooden house in the Leighton Dragon Camp's 13 gangsters in the city governor's estate of Mound Hill City. However, Duan Ling Tian did not mind at all. Compared to the extremely harsh environment in his past life, this place was like heaven. After closing the door, Duan Ling Tian carefully observed the house. He realized that the house was not airtight. A gust of wind could blow in from anywhere. It's not easy to put the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda in this case. Duan Ling Tian thought to himself. As long as the wind blew in, he would be blown out as soon as the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda was touched. Forget it. It's only a day. I'll just cultivate outside. Duan Ling Tian thought to himself. As long as he passed the entrance assessment of the Moon Illumination sect tomorrow, he would become an outer court disciple of the sect. As long as he was capable, he could stay in the independent courtyard in the outer court anytime. The reason he said, as long as he was capable, was because the living conditions of the outer court disciples in the Moon Illumination sect were also divided into different grades and grades. Fang Hui had told them about this on their way here. Only those who had a strong fist could live well. Although I haven't broken through to the perfection mortal shedding stage yet, most of the true energy in my chi-si has been accumulated. With the 52 saint veins, I can mobilize all of my true energy in just a blink of an eye. Duan Ling Tian's heart jolted. Even those on the paramount mortal shedding stage might not be able to compare to me in this aspect. Besides, I've also cultivated the defensive technique silver shirt to the highest level, the impeccable stage. With my current ability, although I haven't broken through to the perfection mortal shedding stage yet, it's enough to crush many martial and Dao cultivators on the paramount mortal shedding stage. Duan Ling Tian was confident about this. Bang! A loud bang sounded out and gave Duan Ling Tian a fright. At the same time, a gust of wind blew in, causing Duan Ling Tian to regain his senses. His face turned extremely grave. The loud noise came from the sound of the door being kicked. The wind was caused by the door being kicked open. Someone had kicked open the door to Duan Ling Tian's house. Boy, I've taken a liking to this house. Get out of here. Chapter 1423. Duan Ling Tian walked out of his house with a gloomy expression. With just a glance, he saw an arrogant young man standing at the door of his house as though he was number 2. When Duan Ling Tian walked out, Fang Hui, the city governor of Mound Hill City, Ling Yun, and Jianghu also heard the commotion and walked out of their houses respectively. At the same time, another middle-aged man and 3 other young men came out as well. The 4 of them were undoubtedly unfamiliar faces to Duan Ling Tian. However, Duan Ling Tian's attention was not on them. His eyes were on the arrogant young man in front of him. Do you feel a sense of accomplishment for kicking my door open and asking me to leave? Is that right? Duan Ling Tian asked in his deep voice as a hint of coldness flashed through his eyes. So what if I am? Don't tell me you dare to go against my will? The young man who called himself Xiao Zhui sneered with his nose in the air as though he was a superior talking to a subordinate. He said in a condescending tone, if I were you, I'd leave immediately instead of talking nonsense here. You'll only be humiliating yourself if you continue to stay. When Xiao Zhui reached the end of his sentence, his eyes were filled with disdain as he looked at Duan Ling Tian. It seems like senior brother Xiao Zhui is unwilling to be left out no matter where he goes. That's right. Senior brother Xiao Zhui was like that when he was in Luojiang City. I can't believe he's still the same after coming to the Moon Illumination sect. Isn't he afraid of being taken advantage of? Taken advantage of? You've underestimated senior brother Xiao Zhui. He's the #1 genius among the younger generation in the area around Luojiang City. He's only 38 years old, but he's already broken through to the paramount mortal shedding stage. The other 3 young men were whispering to each other. It was obvious they came from the same city as Xiao Zhui. Lui. Fang Hui looked at the middle-aged man nearby and said with a frown, isn't your disciple too much? My disciple didn't offend him, did he? Luo Yi was the city governor of Luojiang City. Luojiang City was one of the 18 cities under the Moon Illumination sect. It was as famous as Mound Hill City. The city lord of Luojiang City was also an 8th-rate force that controlled an 8th-grade primordial stone mine. Fang Hui, I heard that your most outstanding direct disciple, Su Qi, has been taken in as Elder Lu Huan's direct disciple. Congratulations. With this relationship, I presume that you and Elder Lu Huan will be able to bury the hatchet, right? Luo Yi said with a smile. His words were unbridled and he did not care about Fang Hui, whose expression was gradually darkening. He knew that it was impossible for Fang Hui and Lu Huan to reconcile. He only said that to provoke Fang Hui. As for Xiao Jue, he just wants to spar with your other disciples. Now only the people from our 2 cities are here. This way we can pass the time, right? Luo Yi still had a smile on his face. Don't tell me that you, Fang Hui, have no one else besides Su Qi? Sure enough, Fang Hui's face darkened even more. His gaze on Luo Yi grew even colder. Trash, I'm talking to you. Didn't you hear me? Xiao Jue's face darkened as he asked loudly when he saw Duan Tian looking at Luo Yi and the other 3 young men from Luojiang City. Trash, who are you talking to? Duan Tian asked nonchalantly as soon as Xiao Jue finished speaking. His tone was cold. Xiao Jue replied angrily. Yes, Trash is talking to me. Duan Tian studied Xiao Jue from head to toe for a while before he nodded in all seriousness. Ah, senior brother Ling Yun, did you hear that? This brat admitted that he's trash. Xionghu laughed out loud. His laughter was wanton and broke the silence. A smile appeared on Ling Yun's face as well. The 3 young men from Luojiang City looked at Xiao Jue with a strange expression. This brat is dead meat. However, there was pity in their eyes when they looked at Duan Tian. It was as though they could already see Duan Tian being tortured by Xiao Jue. Fang Hui, does your direct disciple only know how to talk? Luo Yi glanced at Fang Hui nonchalantly and mocked. Your disciple seems to be the most talkative one since the beginning, right? Fang Hui retorted. Luo Yi's face darkened. He then looked at Xiao Jue and said through true energy voice transmission, Xiao Jue, teach this brat a lesson. As far as I know, Su Qi is the only one among Fang Hui's disciples who has broken through to the paramount mortal shedding stage. However, he has already joined Elder Lu Huan. This brat is no match for you. Brat, you're seeking death. On the other hand, Xiao Jue finally reacted when he heard Luo Yi's true energy voice transmission. He was furious and charged toward Duan Tian immediately. At that moment, the true energy on Xiao Jue's body dissipated as though he had put on a layer of green clothes. Wherever he passed, it seemed to have turned into a wave that crashed toward Duan Tian. Duan Tian had no intention of dodging Xiao Jue, who was charging at him menacingly. He stood still with a calm expression on his face from the beginning until the end. Let's see how long you can keep up this act. Xiao Jue's face turned ferocious when he saw Duan Tian's indifference. He swept his palm toward Duan Tian like a 5-fingered mountain. Airwaves rolled out. The force of Xiao Jue's palm shook the flowers and plants more than 10 meters away. Umph. Duan Tian snorted coldly and made his move as well. As the 52 saint veins in his body were activated, the true energy in his qi surged into his hands. He slammed his palm out as well. His palm was shining with a dazzling silver luster. You want to fight Xiao Jue, who's at the paramount mortal shedding stage? You're digging your own grave. Luo Yi smirked when he saw that. He thought the purple-clad brat from Mound Hill City was too arrogant. Did he really think he was Su Qi? Bang. A loud bang reverberated in the air as Duan Tian and Xiao Jue's palms collided. A rolling air wave raged out from the center of the 2 palms as though it had set off a gale. Both of them retreated in a flash at the same time. Duan Tian took 5 steps back while Xiao Jue took 4 steps back. No wonder you're so arrogant. You're quite capable. Xiao Jue glanced at Duan Tian in shock. However, a look of disdain soon appeared on his face. I'll let you know that the people from Mound Hill City are destined to be stepped on by the people from Luojiang City. A sword appeared in Xiao Jue's hand out of thin air as soon as he was done speaking. It was obvious that he was going to use his saint weapon to end the battle quickly. The 4 people from Luojiang City were surprised that Duan Tian was only at a slight disadvantage when he collided with Xiao Jue's palms. On the other hand, the 3 people from Mound Hill City were not surprised at all. Fang Hui, I didn't expect Mound Hill City to have such an outstanding genius martial cultivator after Su Qi left. Luo Yi looked at Fang Hui. When he saw the smug look on Fang Hui's face, he poured cold water on him. However, he's still no match for Xiao Jue with this little bit of ability. Xiao Jue's most powerful skill is his sword technique. His most powerful skill is his sword technique? Fang Hui was amused. Does Luo Yi think that Duan Lingtian's most powerful skill is his palm technique? Although Xiao Jue is arrogant, he's quite capable. He's even on par with Su Qi from half a year ago. My punch with 80% of my strength is actually at a slight disadvantage. Duan Lingtian was secretly shocked. Based on the earlier exchange of palms, he was sure that if he did not use any weapons or Saint-grade martial tactic moves, he and Xiao Jue would at most be on par. You're digging your own grave. However, he was delighted when he saw Xiao Jue taking out his Saint weapon and trying to defeat him with it. One must know that the reason why he was so confident in defeating so many martial and Dao cultivators at the paramount mortal shedding stage was mainly because of his weapon. His weapon was the sun-shooting bow. Although the sun-shooting bow was not as glorious as it was in its prime, it was not something a human-rank Saint weapon could compare to. Trash from Mound Hill City, I'll defeat you with just one strike. Xiao Jue shouted coldly and struck with his sword at lightning speed. He moved with his sword, his body was ethereal and seemed real at the same time. The sword gleam was like a blooming white flower that was dazzling and beautiful. Plum blossom sword. Xiao Jue mumbled. The sword gleam in his hand bloomed like plum blossoms in winter as it flew toward Duan Lingtian, aiming for his vital points. Body and arrow synchronization. Duan Lingtian drew his bow and shot an arrow. He moved with the arrow like a bolt of lightning and dodged Xiao Jue's sword technique easily. Sword shadow pursuit. Xiao Jue continued to mumble. After Duan Lingtian dodged, he chased after him. The sword in his hand was like a gangrene attached to a bone. It did not leave Duan Lingtian's side at all. However, that was just the beginning. A moment later, Duan Lingtian managed to distance himself from Xiao Jue. Xiao Jue was completely defeated in terms of speed. Oh no. Luo Yi's expression changed drastically when he saw that. He thought nobody in Mound Hill City was a match for his disciple since Su Qi was no longer around. He did not expect Mound Hill City to have such a genius even without Su Qi. In the martial Tao of the world, speed was the only thing that could not be defeated. Speed could defeat all techniques. As the city governor of Luojiang City, how could he not know the importance of speed? Xiao Jue is in danger. Luo Yi could not help but look at Fang Hui with jealousy in his eyes. What did Fang Hui do to deserve this? First he had Su Qi. After Su Qi was snatched away, he had such a disciple. Was Mound Hill City's luck that great? Clang. The sound of an iron weapon colliding with a muffled grunt resonated. Luo Yi had a bad feeling about this and his expression changed immediately. When he snapped back to his senses, he realized the disciple he was proud of, Xiao Jue, had been defeated by the purple-clad young man. The purple-clad young man had knocked the sword out of Xiao Jue's hand with an arrow. Moreover, the bowstring in the purple-clad young man's bow was placed in front of Xiao Jue's throat. As long as the purple-clad young man shook the bowstring, Xiao Jue's head would definitely be separated from his body. Don't try to act cool if you don't have the ability. Do you think you can show how powerful you are by provoking me, attracting the attention of others, and defeating me? Do you think you can satisfy your vanity? Duan Lingtian looked at Xiao Jue with a mocking smile on his face. He showed no mercy at all. Speaking of which, I have to thank you for taking the initiative to come to me and giving me a chance to act cool. Chapter 1424. The reason Xiao Jue snatched Duan Lingtian's house was because the location of Duan Lingtian's house was really good. Secondly, his master was not on good terms with the city governor of Mound Hill City. When he found out the people from Mound Hill City were the only ones who came earlier than them, he had his eyes on Duan Lingtian's house. Unfortunately, things did not go as he wished. He did not expect the Mound Hill City disciple he chose to be an iron plate. An iron plate that he, Xiao Jue, could not kick. Scram! Duan Lingtian shouted in a deep voice and kicked Xiao Jue, whose face was turning green and pale, away. He did not show any mercy at all. Even a man made of clay had a temper. Naturally, Xiao Jue had to pay the price for provoking him. Otherwise he would think he was a pushover. When the other three young men from Luojiang City had a change of expression, Luo Yi snorted coldly and took a step forward toward Duan Lingtian. Boy, how dare you hurt someone from Luojiang City? Luo Yi. Fang Hui stopped Luo Yi as soon as he took a step forward. Don't tell me the almighty city governor of Luojiang City wants to bully a junior? If I remember correctly, you said this was just a sparring session to pass the time, right? You seem to agree with that, don't you? Luo Yi was furious when he heard what Fang Hui said. He had indeed said that earlier. What? You thought the people from Mound Hill City were no match for the people from Luojiang City, so you boasted shamelessly. Now that your people are at a disadvantage, you're trying to deny it? Fang Hui smirked. He was not afraid of Luo Yi since they were both outer court deacons of the Moon Illumination sect. Fang Hui, I can't believe you're so lucky to have picked up such a monster after losing Su Qi. I only hope he won't be like Su Qi when he joins the sect. He won't part ways with you and join Elder Lu Huan instead. Luo Yi snorted and took a good look at Duan Lingtian. I think, if Elder Lu Huan finds out you have such a disciple, he won't let him go. Luo Yi smirked when he reached the end of his sentence. Fang Hui's expression changed drastically when he heard that. To be honest, he was really worried about this. He subconsciously glanced at Duan Lingtian, only to discover that the Duan Lingtian was also looking at him. When he saw the determination in the Duan Lingtian's eyes, his heart settled. That will depend on whether he has the ability or not. Fang Hui glanced at Luo Yi and sneered. Why don't you hurry up and pick a place to stay and recuperate? Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough? Luo Yi looked back at Fang Hui coldly. He then looked at Xiao Jue, who was in a sorry state, and said indifferently. Xiao Jue took a deep breath and glared fiercely at Duan Lingtian. Only then did he find an empty house to stay in. During this process, Jianghu took pleasure in Duan Lingtian's misfortune and shushed him twice. The geniuses of Luojiang City are only SOSO. Jianghu chuckled. His words made the people of Luojiang City turn pale, but they were speechless. The truth was right in front of them and they could not refute it. It was unknown if the three young men from Luojiang City felt embarrassed because Xiao Jue had embarrassed Luojiang City or they were afraid of Duan Lingtian, but all of them returned to their houses one after another. Luo Yi did not stay outside for long and returned to his own house. However, before he entered, he looked at Duan Lingtian meaningfully. A cold, murderous intent flashed in the depths of his eyes. Naturally, Duan Lingtian noticed the murderous intent in Luo Yi's eyes, but he did not care. His name is Luo Yi, the city governor of Luojiang City. At this time, Fang Hui also told Duan Lingtian about Luo Yi's identity. When we were in the sect, he was Lu Huan's lackey. Because of Lu Huan, he has always been at odds with me. Upon hearing Fang Hui's words, Duan Lingtian and the other two were enlightened. It seems that Xiao Jue deliberately provoked Duan Lingtian. Unfortunately, he kicked an iron plate. Jianghu chuckled, gloating over Xiao Jue's misfortune. Ling Yun did not say anything, but his face was a little solemn. Xiao Jue was a young genius from Luojiang City who was at the paramount mortal shedding stage. His cultivation base pressured him to a certain extent. After all, he was only at the paramount mortal shedding stage. Ling Yun, you don't have to think too much. I've heard of Xiao Jue before. He's already 38 years old. You, on the other hand, are only in your early 30s. You'll definitely surpass him when you're 38 years old. Fang Hui comforted Ling Yun as though he knew what was on Ling Yun's mind. Yes. Ling Yun's expression softened after Fang Hui comforted him. That was right. Xiao Jue was already 38 years old. He, on the other hand, was only 31 years old. Given 7 years, he was confident he could break through to the Saint Rudiment stage, let alone the paramount mortal shedding stage. That Luo Yi thought he could let his disciples trample on Mound Hill City since Su Qi was gone. Just thinking about his expression earlier makes me happy. A rare bright smile appeared on Fang Hui's face when he recalled the scene earlier. As time went by, more and more people appeared. These people were either the city governors of the other 16 cities under the Moon Illumination sect and the young geniuses they brought along, or the young geniuses that the outer court elders and deacons of the Moon Illumination sect found outside. At once, the residential area became lively. However, although Duan Lingtian heard the commotion outside, he did not intend to join in the fun. He lay on the bed quietly as his thoughts ran wild. Unknowingly, he thought of his 2 fiancées and the unborn child in their wombs. He thought of his parents and wondered where they were. He thought of Han Xuanai and wondered if that girl was still looking for him. At the same time, he thought of the 3 little fellows, the Lingtian sect, the overseas Saint Islands, and the Cloud Continent. As time passed, he began to recall his past life. That bloody life seemed like a lifetime ago when he recalled it now. As the saying goes, there's always someone better than you. In the past, I thought Emperor Wu was the one who stood at the peak of this world. When I arrived at the Cloud Continent, I found out that what I knew was just a joke. Emperor Wu is just an innate void restoration stage martial cultivator. He's nothing in the Dao Martial Saint Land. Moreover, the environment of the Dao Martial Saint Land is very different from the mortal continent. It's really hard to imagine that these two places are on the same planet. Duan Lingtian sighed inwardly. Unknowingly the sky turned dark. That night, Duanling Tian did not cultivate, but instead had a good sleep. He slept until dawn until he heard Jianghu calling for him from outside. "Senior brother Duan, it's time for us to leave." When Duanling Tian opened the door, he saw Jianghu standing outside waiting for him. "Where's teacher and Ling Yun?" "Teacher and Ling Yun are waiting for you in front," Jianghu replied. When Duanling Tian left the house, he noticed that many people were leaving their houses one after another. They were walking in groups toward the Moon Illumination sect's estate. Among these people there were middle-aged and old people. Most of them were young people. There were both men and women, but less than 1/10 of them were women. Duanling Tian could understand this. Whether it was on the Cloud Continent or the Dao Martial Saint Land, women were weaker than men in many aspects due to their innate weakness. Naturally, there were also female geniuses who could defeat many male geniuses. However, in comparison, the number of female geniuses was far less than male geniuses. After meeting up with Fang Hui and Ling Yun, Duanling Tian realized they were the last group. Most of the people were walking in front of them toward the Moon Illumination sect's estate. "Teacher, why aren't all of you flying?" Jianghu asked curiously. At this moment, Duanling Tian also realized nobody was flying. Everyone was walking on the ground obediently. Those young people were not at the Saint Rudiment stage and above after all. They were more or less restricted by the Moon Illumination sect's flight prohibiting formation. Duanling Tian had already noticed the flight prohibiting formation yesterday. As soon as they entered the Moon Illumination sect's monastery gate, they entered the flight prohibiting formation. The sect's flight prohibiting formation is more advanced than the one in our Mound Hill city. One must be a saint stage powerhouse to fly in the sect's sky. Fang Hui explained. "Oh, I see." Jianghu finally understood. Meanwhile, Duanling Tian had also obtained his answer. The flight prohibiting formation is really amazing. Saint stage? There don't seem to be many saint stage powerhouses in the entire Moon Illumination sect. In other words, there are only a few people who can fly in the Moon Illumination sect's sky. Unknowingly, Duanling Tian and the other three followed the flow of people and arrived at a spacious square. There was a towering stone platform in the middle of the square. The stone platform was spacious. It was as big as a football field in Duanling Tian's past life. Currently, there was an old man and two middle-aged men standing on it. The two middle-aged men stood behind the old man with the old man as their leader. So many people? Duanling Tian arrived near the stone platform. When he looked around, he realized there were many people there. There were close to 200 people. Excluding the city governors of the 18 cities, there were over 180 people left. They were all young geniuses who came to participate in the Moon Illumination sect's entrance assessment. All of them were excited and high-spirited. On average, there were 10 young geniuses in each city. "Master, don't you think there are too few people from our Mound Hill city? Also, it seems like there are only 4 young geniuses from Luojiang city," Jianghu said in confusion. "Not all of these young geniuses are from the 18 cities." Fang Hui shook his head and said, "More than half of them are young geniuses that the outer court elders and deacons of the sect have recruited outside. They're really desperate to recruit so many young geniuses." Jianghu clicked his tongue. As long as the young geniuses they've recruited pass the assessment and become outer court disciples, they'll be able to obtain a large number of merit points based on the number of people they've recruited. How can they not be desperate? Fang Hui was not surprised at all. Merit points. Upon hearing Fang Hui's words, Duanling Tian's eyes lit up. He had long heard that the merit points from Mound Hill City and the merit points from Moon Illumination sect were the same. Moreover, the things that could be exchanged and the Saint-grade martial tactics that could be borrowed in the Moon Illumination sect were of a higher grade than in Mound Hill City. It made sense when he thought about it. No matter what, Mound Hill City was only an 8th-rate force. Chapter 1425. Look, it's those fellows from Luojiang City. Xiong Quan's eyes were sharp as he cried out. Duanling Tian and the other two followed his gaze and saw the 5 people from Luojiang City standing in the distance with Luo Yi, the city governor, in the lead. Luo Yi seemed to have noticed their gazes as he turned around. When he realized it was them, he narrowed his eyes as a sinister smirk appeared on the corner of his mouth. Fang Hui's heart sank when he saw the sneer on Mo Wuji's face. He knew Luo Yi very well and knew he was not someone to be trifled with. He must be plotting something against his 3 disciples for him to smirk like that. "The 3 of you must be careful when you enter the sect. Although the sect does not allow killing at will, if someone really wants to harm you, there are thousands of ways to do so." Fang Hui took a deep breath and reminded Duanling Tian and the other two. Duanling Tian and the other two nodded. Yo, isn't this Duanling Tian? Suddenly, a voice resonated from afar and was getting closer. When Duanling Tian turned around with a bewildered expression, he saw a young man standing in front of him. This was a young man in a black robe. His face was cold and his entire body emitted a gloomy aura. This aura made one feel uneasy. You man? Duanling Tian asked with uncertainty after he studied the young man in front of him for a while. The young man in front of him was very different from the person in his memory. Therefore, even he did not dare to confirm it. It seems like you have a good memory, Duanling Tian. You still remember me, Yi Man? What? Guoli didn't come? A cold smirk appeared on the corner of Yi Man's mouth, and his eyes gleamed coldly. Yi Man was one of the first human martial cultivators that Duanling Tian met when he arrived near the Dao Martial Saint Land. At that time Yi Man was with Guoli and Lin Qingrong. He was also the most outstanding disciple from the Ye family in Fuyu Town. His cultivation base was only inferior to Guoli among the younger generation in Fuyu Town. Initially, Lin Qingrong was going to bring Guoli and Yi Man back to the city governor's estate of Mound Hill City. However, Duanling Tian appeared out of nowhere. Because Lin Qingrong had limited slots, Yi Man was eliminated according to the rules of survival of the fittest. Duanling Tian never thought that he would meet Yi Man here. One had to know that Yi Man's strength was inferior to even Guoli's. Where did his confidence come from? Out of curiosity, Duanling Tian activated his Heaven's Eye connection. With just a glance, it caused his heartbeat to accelerate. How is that possible? This Yi Man has actually broken through to the paramount mortal shedding stage. Duanling Tian was filled with shock and disbelief. He still remembered. A year ago when he first met Guoli and Yi Man, both of them were only at the middle stage of the mortal shedding stage. Until now, even Guoli was only at the mastery stage of the mortal shedding stage. However, this Yi Man whose innate talent was not as good as Guoli's had actually broken through to the paramount mortal shedding stage? This Yi Man doesn't seem to have just broken through to the paramount mortal shedding stage. I'm afraid his strength has even surpassed Xiao Jure from Luojiang City. Even Su Qi might not be a match for him. Duanling Tian was slightly frightened. Even if it was all of a sudden, he did not dare to say he had full confidence in defeating Yi Man now. Duanling Tian found it hard to imagine. A person who had been defeated by him a year ago, a person whom he had the confidence to defeat in a single blow. Now, a year later he possessed a strength that even he feared. What exactly had happened to Yi Man in the past year? He knows Guoli? Jianghu was a little surprised. Duanling, he's a friend of yours and Guoli's? Yes, we're old friends. Old friends who haven't seen each other for a long time. Especially Duanling Tian, I haven't been able to forget about him for more than a year. Yi Man smiled. His smile was a little cold, sending chills down one's spine. At that moment, Jianghu also felt that something was amiss. Devil cultivator? Fang Hui asked with a frown as he glanced at Yi Man in fear. Devil cultivator? Fang Hui's words made Ling Yun and Jianghu's expressions change slightly. As for Duanling Tian, he only had a shocked expression on his face. When he extended his consciousness into his spatial ring, he noticed that the Devil Seal tablet was moving restlessly as though it had sensed something. At that moment, Duanling Tian confirmed it. Yi Man had fallen into the Devil Dao and became a Devil cultivator. If that was the case, everything would be easy to explain. A Devil cultivator's cultivation speed was beyond logic. At this moment, the dread Duanling Tian had towards Yi Man vanished without a trace. What a joke. With his current cultivation base, he could even kill a Paramount Saint Rudiment stage Devil cultivator by activating the Devil Seal tablet. Let alone a mere Paramount Mortal Shedding stage Devil cultivator. You must be City Governor Fang from Mound Hill City, right? Yi Man looked at Fang Hui and smiled coldly. City Governor Fang, I was abandoned by your subordinate Lin Qingrong a year ago. Speaking of which, if Lin Qingrong didn't abandon me, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I've decided, I'll definitely take good care of the people from Mound Hill City after I join the Moon Illumination sect. At this point, Yi Man's gaze was filled with interest as he sized up Jianghu and Ling Yun, causing Jianghu's expression to change. As for Ling Yun, his expression also turned solemn. Devil cultivators were known for their fast cultivation speed and ruthless character. Even they had to be wary of them. Moreover, they could faintly sense that the Devil cultivator before them was so powerful that they could not compare to him. Fang Hui frowned. At that moment he also sensed that Yi Man was not friendly. Since we've known each other for a while, I'll take good care of you too. Duan Lingtian glanced at Yi Man indifferently and smiled. Duan Lingtian's reaction stunned Fang Hui and the other two. You'll take care of me? Yi Man was stunned at first, but he could not help but laugh. His laugh was even colder. I'll wait and see. Unfortunately, Guoli isn't here. It'd be perfect if she was here. Yi Man ignored Duan Lingtian and turned to leave after he finished speaking. Although he wanted to tear Duan Lingtian into pieces, he knew it was not the right time to attack Duan Lingtian. Otherwise, he might be disqualified from joining the Moon Illumination Sect's entrance assessment. Moreover, it would be difficult for him to kill Duan Lingtian with the city governor of Mound Hill City present. Therefore he was not in a hurry. When Duan Lingtian entered the Moon Illumination Sect, would he not be a piece of meat on his chopping board? Senior brother Duan, how did you and Guoli get to know this devil cultivator? Jianghu could not help but ask Duan Lingtian when he saw Yi Man leaving. He could not help but look at him. This matter we have to start from a year ago. Duan Lingtian told him about how he met Lin Qingrong, Guoli, and Yi Man a year ago. He did not even leave out the details of how the three of them interacted with each other. Does this mean Yi Man wasn't a devil cultivator back then? Fang Hui asked with a frown. Absolutely not. Duan Lingtian shook his head. He's like a completely different person compared to back then. I couldn't recognize him when I saw him earlier. The change is too drastic. It seems like he's fallen into the devil Dao for more than a year, and his cultivation base has improved by leaps and bounds. Jianghu said with dread on his face. However, does the Moon Illumination Sect accept devil cultivators? Jianghu was not the only one looking at Fang Hui. Even Duan Lingtian and Ling Yun were looking at Fang Hui. They were curious about this as well. As long as he's not a devil cultivator who offends the heavens, the sect will never reject him. Not only that, there are many devil cultivators in the sect, Fang Hui said. Fang Hui replied. Soon after, Fang Hui regained his senses and said through true energy voice transmission, Duan Lingtian, although Yi Man wasn't a match for you a year ago. Since he's a devil cultivator, he can't be judged by common sense. Perhaps his ability has surpassed yours now. If you encounter him, avoid him if you can. Don't fight him head-on. Fang Hui reminded him patiently, I have a feeling that his ability is even more powerful than Xiao Jue from Luojiang City. Although he did not probe Yi Man's cultivation base with his spiritual secret tactic, Fang Hui could roughly determine Yi Man's cultivation base based on the aura on his body. He's on the Saint Rudiment stage? Jianghu exclaimed. If he's not on the Saint Rudiment stage, he should be on the Paramount Mortal Shedding stage. However, if he's a devil cultivator, it'll be easy for him to enter the Saint Rudiment stage, Fang Hui said as he shook his head. Fang Hui shook his head and said. His words revealed his foresight and wisdom. However, his ability isn't something that Xiao Jue from Luojiang City can compare to. Fang Hui's face was solemn when he reached the end of his sentence. He's so powerful? Jianghu gasped while Ling Yun had a look of dread on his face. Duan Lingtian was the only one who remained calm. It was as though his expression would not change even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him. To him, regardless of whether Yi Man was a Paramount Mortal Shedding Stage Devil Cultivator or a Saint Rudiment Stage Devil Cultivator, he could easily crush him with the Devil Seal tablet that he activated. Duan Lingtian, don't be careless. Fang Hui frowned and reminded Duan Lingtian when he saw how calm Duan Lingtian was. He thought Duan Lingtian had underestimated his opponent. Everyone please be quiet. Suddenly, an old voice that contained true energy resonated. It suppressed the noisy atmosphere at the scene and temporarily restored peace. It was as though one could hear a pin drop on the ground. At the same time, everyone, including Duan Lingtian, shifted their attention to the old man standing on the spacious stone platform. The old man was surrounded by two middle-aged men like stars surrounding the moon. Welcome to our Moon Illumination Sect's entrance assessment. I won't beat around the bush. What I'm going to say next involves the assessment rules, so I'll make it short. After suppressing the crowd's clamor, the old man continued to say, Our Moon Illumination Sect's entrance assessment is divided into two stages. The first stage is where we'll perform the spiritual secret tactic to check the participants' age and cultivation base. As long as they're below the age of 40 and have a cultivation base above the Perfection Mortal Shedding stage, they'll be able to pass the first stage of the assessment. Chapter 1426. Now that I've introduced the rules, let me introduce myself. My name is Dong Chong and I'm the Outer Court Elder of the Moon Illumination Sect. The old man said slowly. These rules? Duan Lingtian could not help but frown when he heard the rules Dong Chong mentioned. Only those below the perfection mortal shedding stage under the age of 40 can pass the first section of the assessment? Although his current combat strength was comparable to an ordinary paramount mortal shedding stage powerhouse, his cultivation base was only at the mastery mortal shedding stage. His cultivation base could not be hidden from the secret spiritual technique. Senior brother Duan, your cultivation base is only at the mastery mortal shedding stage. According to the old man's rules, doesn't that mean you can't even pass the first section of the assessment? Jianghu frowned and scolded, what kind of stupid rule is this Moon Illumination Sect's entrance assessment? They only look at cultivation base and not combat strength? Isn't this a scam? Whether it was Xiong Quan or Ling Yun, both of them knew that Duan Lingtian had broken through to the mastery mortal shedding stage. Naturally, they also knew that although their senior brother Duan's cultivation base was only at the mastery mortal shedding stage, his combat strength was invincible among those below the paramount mortal shedding stage. Even an ordinary paramount mortal shedding stage powerhouse might not be a match for their senior brother Duan. Ling Yun could not help but frown as well. It would be a huge joke if even senior brother Duan could not pass the Moon Illumination Sect's entrance assessment. Don't worry. Fang Hui smiled when he saw Duan Lingtian and the other two frowning. Duan Lingtian might not pass the first section of the assessment, but it won't be difficult for Duan Lingtian to pass the second section of the assessment. The second section of the assessment? Duan Lingtian and the other two looked at Fang Hui in confusion when they heard that. Since Dong Chong had not told them the details of the second section of the assessment, they had no idea what it was. The sect gives young geniuses below the perfection mortal shedding stage a chance so that they won't be neglected. Even if they fail the first section, they'll still be able to join the sect as long as they pass the second section of the assessment, Fang Hui said. Fang Hui said. Those on the paramount mortal shedding stage don't have to participate in the second stage of the assessment. Those on the perfection mortal shedding stage who participate in the second stage of the assessment will be the rake. Those who didn't pass the first stage of the assessment will be the target when they participate in the second stage of the assessment. As long as they succeed in the challenge, they'll be considered to have passed the entrance assessment and can directly enter the sect. Fang Hui continued. As for those at the perfection mortal shedding realm who are challenged and defeated, they will lose the opportunity to enter the sect. Fang Hui finished explaining the rules of the entrance examination before Dong Chong did. After Dong Chong finished speaking, all the young geniuses present were in an uproar. Only the 18 city masters, including Fang Hui, were not surprised because they already knew the rules. If that's the case, a perfection mortal shedding stage powerhouse will be disqualified and lose the qualification to enter the Moon Illumination Sect after being defeated just once? This is too cruel. He was defeated and was not even given a chance. Actually, this is understandable. A person at the perfection mortal shedding realm who can't even win against someone whose cultivation base is lower than his has almost no future. However, I don't think such a situation will happen. It's usually impossible for someone whose cultivation base is below the perfection mortal shedding stage to defeat someone at the perfection mortal shedding stage. That's true. If he's really defeated by someone below the perfection mortal shedding stage, it's because he's not as good as his opponent. He deserves to be disqualified. The surrounding people discussed among themselves and gradually accepted the rules. That's good. Duan Lingtian sighed in relief after knowing the content of the second section of the assessment. It was not difficult for him to defeat someone at the perfection mortal shedding stage. Soon after, the entrance examination of the Moon Illumination Sect officially began under the leadership of Dong Chong, the Outer Court Elder of the Moon Illumination Sect. The young geniuses from the 18 cities under the Moon Illumination Sect who were recommended by the city masters and recruited by the Outer Court Elders and Deacons of the Moon Illumination Sect descended the stone platform one after another. 10 of them formed a group and were scrutinized by the two middle-aged men behind Dong Chong. The two middle-aged men were the Outer Court Deacons of the Moon Illumination Sect. Naturally, although it looked like they were scrutinizing them, they were actually probing the young genius's age and cultivation base with the spiritual secret tactic. 36 years old, perfection mortal shedding stage pass. 34 years old, perfection mortal shedding stage pass. All the 10 young geniuses in the beginning passed. Don't tell me I'm the only martial cultivator who's not at the perfection mortal shedding stage or above among the group of young men present. Duan Lingtian could not help but smile wryly in the face of this result. There should be many martial cultivators at the mastery mortal shedding stage. As an experienced person, Fang Hui knew much more than Duan Lingtian. In the Dao Martial Saint Land, there are still many genius martial cultivators who can defeat opponents at a higher level. However, the martial cultivators at the mastery mortal shedding stage that I've seen before can only defeat ordinary martial cultivators at the perfection mortal shedding stage at most. When Fang Hui reached the end of his sentence, he looked deeply at Duan Lingtian. It was as if he was saying to Duan Lingtian, not all martial cultivators are at the same level. Not every martial cultivator at the mastery mortal shedding stage is as crazy as you who can even defeat someone at the paramount mortal shedding stage. Just like what Fang Hui had said. There were 2 martial cultivators at the mastery mortal shedding stage in the second batch of young geniuses who did not pass the second stage of the assessment. However, they were not discouraged because of this. It was obvious they knew this would happen. Their target was the second stage of the challenge. Only those who were eliminated in the first stage would have a chance to challenge in the second stage. There were more martial cultivators at the mastery mortal shedding stage among the third batch of young geniuses who went up. There were even fewer people in the fourth batch. When the fifth batch of young geniuses went up, Jianghu exclaimed, "It's that boy." Upon hearing Jianghu's reminder, Duan Lingtian and the other 2 stared at the stone platform in front of them. They noticed Yi Man was among the 10 people. Yi Man stood there with a cold aura exuding from his body. He seemed out of place with the other 9 young geniuses. The other 9 young geniuses were intentionally or unintentionally keeping a distance from him. Devil cultivator? This young man is a devil cultivator. The cultivation speed of devil cultivators has always been heaven-defying. I wonder how old he is this year and what's his cultivation base. His age and cultivation base must be shocking. Let's wait and see. Yi Man attracted a lot of attention. More and more people's attention was focused on him. Paramount mortal shedding stage at 30 years old. As one of the middle-aged men next to the outer court elder, Dong Chong, spoke, the entire place was in an uproar. The middle-aged man was talking about Yi Man, as expected of a devil cultivator. He's only 30 years old and he's already broken through to the paramount mortal shedding stage. Amazing. Amazing. He's even more powerful than I imagined. At that moment the entire place was in an uproar. Yi Man was the first person at the paramount mortal shedding stage to appear in the Moon Illumination Sect's entrance assessment today. As expected, he became the center of attention. Not only were the 9 young geniuses standing next to him, but even the young geniuses who passed the first stage of the assessment were overshadowed by him. Yi Man stood on the stone platform with his nose in the air and a proud expression on his face. He enjoyed the feeling of being the center of attention. At the same time, his condescending gaze landed on Duan Lingtian as he looked down at Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian, you're destined to be stepped on by me, Yi Man. Yi Man's true energy voice transmission was extremely arrogant. However, Duan Lingtian did not care at all. His expression remained the same as he glanced at Yi Man indifferently. He did not even bother to talk to him. In his opinion, Yi Man was just a defeated opponent. He was, and he would be in the future. How could a defeated opponent be brave enough to speak? Duan Lingtian's attitude made Yi Man's face turn completely grave. He did not expect Duan Lingtian would still dare to ignore him at this moment. For a moment, Yi Man only felt that his anger was about to burst out. Duan Lingtian. If I don't kill you, I, Yi Man, swear I'm not human. Yi Man's eyes gleamed ferociously as he gritted his teeth and mumbled. Since Yi Man was at the paramount mortal shedding stage, he was exempted from the second stage of the assessment. He was led to the outer court area of the Moon Illumination Sect's estate by an outer court disciple. Yi Man was also the first person among the group of young geniuses who passed the entrance assessment and became a disciple of the Moon Illumination Sect. Senior brother Duan, the way Yi Man looked at you was as if he wanted to swallow you whole. How much hatred do you have for him? Although Yi Man's gaze was not directed at him, Jianghu still had goosebumps. To a narrow-minded person, even a small conflict can be regarded as the hatred of killing one's father or stealing one's wife. How much hatred do you think he has for me? Duan Lingtian asked back. Jianghu was speechless. The hatred of killing one's father and stealing one's wife were the greatest hatred in the world. Duan Lingtian, be careful of Yi Man when you enter the sect. There's no kind person among the devil cultivators. Especially since he might have turned into a devil because of you. Fang Hui said with a solemn expression on his face. If an ordinary martial cultivator or Dao cultivator falls into the devil Dao because of some obsession, then there are only two paths before him. The first path is to get rid of the obsession and soar. The second path is to fail to get rid of the obsession. If it's light, he'll go through qi deviation. If it's serious, he'll be devoured by the devil qi and die. Fang Hui had done his research on devil cultivators before. After his wife was forced to commit suicide by Lu Huan, he had thought of falling into the devil Dao and becoming a devil cultivator in order to avenge her. That was the only way he would have a chance to avenge her. However, his wife seemed to have guessed his thoughts. Before she committed suicide, she left him a message that he must not fall into the devil Dao. Otherwise, she would not be able to die in peace. His wife had died such a horrible death. No matter how much Fang Hui hated her and wanted to avenge her, he could not bear to go against her last words. I've heard about that as well. Chapter 1427. This is the craziness of devil cultivators, and also the terror of devil cultivators. Jianghu's face was solemn when he reached the end of his sentence. Archenemy? Duan Lingtian had a disdainful expression when he heard Jianghu's words. He's not worthy. Duan Lingtian was telling the truth. He had the devil seal tablet and was a mortal shedding stage martial cultivator. As long as his opponent was not a powerful devil cultivator above the saint stage, he could easily kill him by activating the devil seal tablet with his current cultivation base. Even if he was a paramount saint rudiment stage devil cultivator, he could still kill him unless he took out the devil seal tablet. The devil seal tablet was one of the 10 great super saint weapons in the Dao Martial Saint Land's 10 great saint weapons ranking. It gave Duan Lingtian immense confidence. Duan Lingtian, don't be careless. However, Fang Hui did not know about the devil seal tablet's existence. He quickly reminded Duan Lingtian when he saw that he did not seem to agree with Jianghu's words. Duan Lingtian was his hope. He did not want anything to happen to Duan Lingtian because he underestimated Yiman Lingyun looked deeply at Duan Lingtian. He saw immense confidence in Duan Lingtian's eyes. It was an unshakable confidence. I wonder what senior brother Duan is relying on to look down on Yiman. Although Lingyun could see some clues, it would never cross his mind that the devil seal tablet in the 10 great saint weapons ranking would be in Duan Lingtian's hands. The first stage of the assessment continued. After Yiman, many paramount mortal shedding stage martial cultivators appeared. However, they were all over 35 years old. Their potential could not be compared to Yiman's. Those guys from Luojiang City have gone up as well. Jianghu's sharp eyes saw the 4 young geniuses from Luojiang City, including Xiao Zhui, going up the stone platform. Duan Lingtian looked over as well. After activating his divine eye, he could easily see the other 3 people apart from Xiao Zhui. 2 of them were at the perfection mortal shedding stage while the other was at the mastery mortal shedding stage. Xiao Zhui was a martial cultivator on the paramount mortal shedding stage. Not only did he pass the first stage of the assessment, but he did not even need to participate in the second stage of the assessment. He passed the entrance assessment directly and became an outer court disciple of the Moon Illumination sect. As for the other 3, 2 perfection mortal shedding realm cultivators passed the first stage of the assessment while the mastery mortal shedding realm cultivator failed. Luo Yi, the city governor of Luojiang City, was prepared for this outcome, so he was not surprised. Among the 4 young geniuses of Luojiang City, Xiao Zhui left with the Moon Illumination sect's outer court disciple while the 2 perfection mortal shedding stage cultivators stayed on the stone platform while the mastery mortal shedding stage cultivator returned to Luo Yi's side. It's the people of Mound Hill City's turn. Luo Yi looked at the people from Mound Hill City, including Duan Lingtian, and a fierce gleam flashed through his eyes. Now, only the last group of people including Duan Lingtian, Jianghu and Lingyun had yet to go on stage. They were in the 19th group. There were only 7 people in this group. What? He's only at the late stage of the immortal shedding stage? How's that possible? How's that possible? Luo Yi was dumbstruck when the result of Duan Lingtian and the rest's investigation came out. It was not only Luo Yi. Even the young genius from Luojiang City next to him was dumbstruck. The young genius from Mound Hill City who had defeated Xiao Zhui was only a mastery mortal shedding stage martial cultivator like him? Oh my god. Was he dreaming? The 2 perfection mortal shedding stage martial cultivators from Luojiang City on the stone platform were petrified. Yesterday they had witnessed the battle where Duan Lingtian defeated Xiao Zhui with their own eyes. Xiao Zhui was the #1 genius among the younger generation in Luojiang City. His cultivation base had broken through to the paramount mortal shedding stage, but he was still defeated by Duan Lingtian. Before this, they were almost certain that Duan Lingtian was also a mastery mortal shedding stage martial cultivator. However, reality gave them a loud slap in the face. The young genius from Mound Hill City was only a mastery mortal shedding stage martial cultivator. Apart from the group from Luojiang City, the rest did not find it strange. After all, among the 187 people who participated in the entrance assessment, 55 of them were on the mastery mortal shedding stage. The remaining 132 people were on the perfection mortal shedding stage and above. Among them, there were 12 perfection mortal shedding stage martial cultivators. The 120 perfection mortal shedding stage martial cultivators stood on the stone platform, waiting for the second part of the assessment to begin. Below the stone platform, most of the 55 mastery mortal shedding stage martial cultivators were rubbing their palms as they observed the 120 perfection mortal shedding stage martial cultivators on the stone platform one by one, choosing their target to challenge. At this moment they would definitely look for targets that they were confident in defeating. After all, they only had one chance to challenge. If they failed, they would have no fate with the Moon Illumination sect. If they succeeded, they would pass the entrance assessment of the Moon Illumination sect and become an outer court disciple of the Moon Illumination sect. Success or failure would depend on this battle. The atmosphere at the scene gradually became somewhat heavy. Almost all the young geniuses on the mastery mortal shedding stage who dared to come here were confident in themselves. Otherwise they would not have come. Therefore, although the 120 young people on the stone platform were on the perfection mortal shedding stage, some of them were extremely anxious because they had just broken through to the perfection mortal shedding stage recently. They did not have much of an advantage in terms of true energy. They only had a slight advantage in terms of the number of saint veins in their bodies. How's this possible? How's it possible that he's only on the mastery mortal shedding stage? Is there something wrong with the spiritual secret tactic? The four people from Luojiang City kept their eyes on Duan Lingtian as they muttered to themselves. They still could not believe that the young genius from Mound Hill City was only a mastery mortal shedding stage martial cultivator. Now, everyone below the stone platform, please stand on the right side. The left side is reserved for the young geniuses on the perfection mortal shedding stage who have left the stone platform after being defeated. On the spacious stone platform, the outer court elder, Dong Chong, announced loudly. At once, everyone moved to the right side, leaving a large empty space on the left side. I'll tell you the details of the second part of the assessment now. The young geniuses who have been eliminated in the first part of the assessment can go up to the stone platform and choose your opponent. As long as you defeat your opponent, you'll pass our Moon Illumination sect's entrance assessment and become an outer court disciple of the Moon Illumination sect directly. Of course, everyone who goes up to the stone platform can't choose to challenge the young geniuses from the same city. I hope everyone can understand. This is to prevent situations where people give way to each other. Also, any young geniuses on the perfection mortal shedding stage who are defeated won't be able to join the Moon Illumination sect for the next 5 years. Unless you're younger than 40 years old after 5 years, you can participate in our Moon Illumination sect's entrance assessment by then. Otherwise, you won't be able to join the Moon Illumination sect for the rest of your life. Dong Chong's loud voice was transmitted into the ears of everyone at the scene. Once the young geniuses on the perfection mortal shedding stage on the stone platform were defeated, they would not be able to join the Moon Illumination sect. Many young geniuses on the stone platform were nervous when they heard what he said. What are you afraid of? They're just a bunch of guys who haven't even entered the perfection mortal shedding stage. Why are you worried that you can't defeat them? That's right. If we can't even defeat these guys below the stone platform, we'll really embarrass the perfection mortal shedding stage. I'm confident that I can defeat anyone below the perfection mortal shedding stage anyway. Many young geniuses on the stone platform were confident as well. They felt the young geniuses below the stone platform who were eliminated in the first stage were no match for them. When the second stage of the assessment begins, the young geniuses below the stone platform will ascend the high platform one by one. If you're successful, someone will bring you to register as an outer court disciple of our Moon Illumination sect. If you fail, you'll have to go to the left area as well. Dong Chong continued. The left area was empty. There was nobody there at the moment. Those who failed would have to go there to identify themselves. Now, I announce that the second stage of the assessment has officially begun. As soon as Dong Chong's words left his mouth, a young genius below the stone platform flew up to the stone platform immediately. He stood there and glanced at the 120 young geniuses on the perfection mortal shedding stage one by one. I challenge you. Soon he chose his target, a young genius who was similar in age to him. However, he was defeated in less than 10 moves. How unlucky. I can't believe I picked a tough one. After being defeated, the young genius on the mastery mortal shedding stage smiled wryly. He was willing to admit his defeat and jumped off the high platform to stand in the left area. There was only one person left in the elimination area on the left. Subsequently, the young geniuses flew up to the stone platform one by one. After Duan Lingtian activated his divine eye, he discovered that these young geniuses were all on the mastery mortal shedding stage. None of them were on the intermediate mortal shedding stage, let alone the early mortal shedding stage. That's right. If you're not on the mastery mortal shedding stage, it's almost impossible for you to pass the entrance assessment of the Moon Illumination sect. Duan Lingtian did not find it strange at all. As time passed, the young geniuses on the mastery mortal shedding stage went up to the stone platform in high spirits and challenged the young geniuses on the perfection mortal shedding stage. Soon after, 23 young geniuses on the mastery mortal shedding stage went up. However, all of them failed without exception. It's impossible for those on the mastery mortal shedding stage to defeat us on the perfection mortal shedding stage. We'll defeat as many as there are. On the stone platform, the group of young geniuses on the perfection mortal shedding stage who had yet to be defeated were in high spirits. At that moment, none of the young geniuses on the mastery mortal shedding stage below the stone platform went up. The defeat of the 23 people in front of them had affected their fighting spirit to a certain extent. The mastery mortal shedding stage is just a lowly ant. Ants should be trampled under our feet and never be able to turn the tables. A green-clad young man with an enchanting face and a sharp voice glanced at all the young geniuses below the stone platform in disdain. That's should be trampled under your feet? Never be able to turn the tables? When the group of young geniuses below the stone platform were enraged, a cold gleam flashed in Duan Lingtian's eyes. He smirked and turned into a bolt of lightning that shot up the stone platform. Chapter 1428. Come, step on me so that I'll never be able to turn the tables. Duan Lingtian said nonchalantly as he stood on the stone platform and looked at the green-clad young man who had challenged him earlier. The green-clad young man with an enchanting face obviously did not expect someone to step onto the stone platform because of what he said. He was stunned for a moment before he stepped out with a mocking smile on his face. It's good to be confident. However, overconfidence is arrogance. Do you think you're different from the 23 people who went up earlier? Do you think you can defeat me and pass the Moon Illumination sect's entrance assessment? The green-clad young man said sarcastically in a sharp voice. Boy, don't say that I look down on you. I don't even take a mastery mortal shedding stage martial cultivator like you seriously. I'm flattering you by calling you an ant. In my eyes, you're just a pile of mud. The green-clad young man mocked Duan Lingtian in an unbridled manner. His words were not polite at all. It's impossible for a mastery mortal shedding stage to defeat a perfection mortal shedding stage powerhouse. No matter how many people come up, they're just asking to be humiliated. Do you really think we're all perfection mortal shedding stage powerhouses? The difference in cultivation base is destined to determine the difference in strength. The group of perfection mortal shedding stage powerhouses on the high platform looked at Duan Lingtian in disdain. They did not think there was any difference between Duan Lingtian and the 23 young geniuses on the mastery mortal shedding stage who went up earlier. In their opinion, this purple-clad young man would definitely end up like the 23 young geniuses. He was destined to fail the challenge and have no fate with the Moon Illumination sect. Naturally, there were 4 perfection mortal shedding stage powerhouses who were the exception. They were Ling Yun, Jianghu, and the 2 young geniuses from Luojiang City. Below the high platform, apart from the city governor of Mound Hill City, the city governor of Luojiang City and the young genius on the mastery mortal shedding stage from Luojiang City, the rest of them did not think Duan Lingtian would win. The city governor of Mound Hill City knew Duan Lingtian very well. He knew very well about Duan Lingtian's strength. The city governor of Luojiang City and the young genius next to him had witnessed Duan Lingtian's strength yesterday. Duan Lingtian's strength was not something a perfection mortal shedding stage powerhouse could compare to. What? Hearing the green-clothed youth's words, Duan Lingtian laughed instead of getting angry. Then I'm very curious. What kind of expression will you have when you're defeated by mud? You're even worse than mud. What are you? Stop dreaming. What you said will never happen. The young man in green said with disdain, a pile of mud like you? I can defeat you in at most 3 moves. Really? The smile on Duan Lingtian's face became even more brilliant. He then took a step forward. He didn't wait for the green-clothed young man to make the first move. Silver shirt. In an instant, Duan Lingtian's body flashed with a layer of faint silver light, as if he was wearing a layer of silver armor. Because of the 52 saint veins carrying the true qi, all of this happened in an instant. At the instant his body was suffused with a silver light, Duan Lingtian had already stomped on the ground and shot towards the green-clad young man like a cannonball. His physical strength that was boosted by the silver shirt was completely unleashed, and his true qi was released without reservation. Even without using his movement technique, Duan Lingtian's speed was still frighteningly fast. In the blink of an eye, he was already close to the green-clothed youth. The green-clothed youth's expression changed slightly when he saw Duan Lingtian's speed. It was apparent that he did not expect a mastery mortal shedding stage martial cultivator to be so fast. Even if he gave it his all and used his movement technique, his speed would only be this fast. Being fast doesn't mean that your attack is powerful. Now, I'll show you the difference between the mastery mortal shedding stage and the perfection mortal shedding stage. How dare a speck of light compete with the moon? The green-clothed young man roared in a low voice as he moved to intercept Duan Lingtian. He shook the folding fan in his hand and it was instantly covered with a layer of true qi. He then swept towards Duan Lingtian. I'd like to see how you're going to take this attack of mine. The air was torn apart like paper wherever the folding fan passed. The fan light was swift and swept towards Duan Lingtian. Body and arrow synchronization. Duan Lingtian took out the sun-shooting bow and shot an arrow. His body and arrow synchronization disappeared from the green-clothed youth's sight in just a blink of an eye. Impossible. The green-clothed youth's eyes shrunk. His face was filled with shock and disbelief. He felt that the purple-clad youth at the mastery mortal shedding stage seemed to have disappeared from his sight without a trace. He could not catch a glimpse of him at all. Nothing's impossible. Subsequently, he heard a voice coming from behind him. Although the voice was calm, it scared him out of his wits. When did he run to the back? As soon as the green-clothed youth had this thought, he felt a majestic force pressing on his back like a giant hammer. It made him feel as though he was being crushed by a mountain. In the next second he felt his body tremble. His internal organs were in turmoil. Subsequently, his body flew out of his control as though he was riding on clouds. Boom. The green-clothed youth fell off the stage, not far away from the 23 young geniuses at the mastery mortal shedding stage who were eliminated. He was still in high spirits a moment ago, but he was now covered in dust. The 23 young geniuses at the mastery mortal shedding stage who were eliminated were already humiliated. Now that they saw the green-clothed youth who was the most arrogant was defeated, they gloated. You said that we mastery mortal shedding stage are ants and mud. Now it seems like you're worse than ants and mud. Weren't you arrogant just now? Didn't you get eliminated in the end? Who told you to underestimate us mastery mortal shedding stage? Are you dumbfounded? The 23 young geniuses at the mastery mortal shedding stage mocked the green-clothed youth one after another. Currently, most of the people on and off the stage had their eyes on Duan Lingtian. Even the Moon Illumination Sect's outer court elder, Dong Chong, and the other 2 outer court deacons were dumbfounded. It was apparent that the scene earlier had shocked them as well. He defeated a perfection mortal shedding stage martial cultivator in just a blink of an eye. Was this really done by a mastery mortal shedding stage martial cultivator? Amazing. I have some impression of him. He was standing next to City Governor Fang Hui of Mound Hill City earlier. It seems like he's a young genius from Mound Hill City. Among the young geniuses from Mound Hill City, I only know that Su Qi from Mound Hill City is very powerful. Could he be Su Qi? He's not Su Qi. I heard that Su Qi was taken away by Elder Lu Huan's direct disciple, Zhou Qi, half a year ago. Su Qi must be an inner court disciple now. I can't believe the city governor of Mound Hill City got such a monster after losing Su Qi. The other 16 city governors were also discussing among themselves. Their eyes were filled with envy as they looked at Fang Hui. Fang Hui could not help but feel a little smug. Duan Lingtian. Fang Hui's eyes were filled with tenderness as he looked at the purple figure on the stone platform. It's too fake. Impossible. Even if a mastery mortal shedding stage martial cultivator can defeat a perfection mortal shedding stage martial cultivator, it's impossible for him to defeat him in such an exaggerated way. I know now. That fella must have let him win on purpose. I knew it. That fella mocked the purple-clad young man so much just now. It's just a facade. His goal is to let the purple-clad young man win. I strongly request that both of them be eliminated. That's right. Eliminate both of them. Many young geniuses on the perfection mortal shedding stage on the stone platform snapped back to their senses after being stunned for a moment. They looked at Duanling Tian and clamored. Naturally, there were also many young geniuses on the perfection mortal shedding stage who were quite powerful who noticed something. His speed is too fast. That speed. Is it something that someone on the mastery mortal shedding stage can do? Even I, who's already at the peak of the mastery mortal shedding stage, can't compare to him in terms of speed. If he's really on the mastery mortal shedding stage, isn't that too insane? These were all young geniuses on the perfection mortal shedding stage who had good judgment and were quite powerful. The green-clad young man finally stood up after consuming the healing pill. His eyes were filled with malice as he looked at Duanling Tian again. How dare you eliminate me, Deng Yu? You're dead. You're dead. Although Deng Yu knew his opponent was far weaker than Duanling Tian after the battle earlier, it did not change his mind. However, this did not affect his hatred for Duanling Tian. Duanling Tian had eliminated him and destroyed his dream of entering the Moon Illumination sect. Uncle, I can't accept this. I can't accept this. I'm already 37 years old this year. 5 years later, when the Moon Illumination sect holds the entrance assessment again, I'll be over 40 years old and won't be qualified to participate. Deng Yu looked at one of the middle-aged men next to Dong Chong. His true energy voice transmission was filled with unwillingness. Uncle, you must have a way. You must have a way, right? Little Yu, I'm just an outer court deacon. I don't have the authority to recruit those who've been eliminated into the sect. The middle-aged man was one of the 2 outer court deacons next to Dong Chong. His name was Deng Wei. Uncle, I can't accept this. I can't accept this. Deng Yu's face was filled with unwillingness. Little Yu, don't worry. Although I can't let you join the sect, it won't be difficult for me to avenge you. Even if this brat from Mound Hill City enters the Moon Illumination sect, I won't let him live for long. Destroying you is equivalent to destroying our Deng clan's future. I won't let him go. Deng Wei said through true energy voice transmission as a cold gleam flashed across his eyes. That's right. Kill him. Kill him. The unwillingness on Deng Yu's face faded away gradually when he heard Deng Wei's words. Duanling Tian glanced at Deng Yu nonchalantly. He was not interested in looking at him anymore. Instead, he looked at the Moon Illumination sect's outer court elder, Dong Chong. Elder Dong Chong, I should be considered to have passed the entrance assessment, right? Yes, yes. Dong Chong finally regained his senses when he heard Duanling Tian's words. He could not regain his senses for a long time after witnessing the earlier scene. Then, a Moon Illumination sect's outer court disciple went up the stone platform, preparing to take Duanling Tian away. Dong Chong looked at Duanling Tian and asked with a smile, Little fellow, I'm interested in taking you as my direct disciple. Are you willing? The strength that Duanling Tian had displayed earlier made him want to cherish him. Whoosh. Chapter 1429. Who was Dong Chong? He was an elder of the Moon Illumination sect. Although he was only an outer court elder, his position in the Moon Illumination sect was only second to the Supreme Elder, the sect leader, the vice-sect leader, and some inner court elders. At once, the eyes that were looking at Duanling Tian were filled with envy and jealousy. Damn it. Deng Yu's expression changed drastically. Deng Wei, who was standing next to Dong Chong, had a grave expression on his face. Earlier, he had promised his nephew that he would definitely kill Duanling Tian. However, his immediate superior, Elder Dong Chong, wanted to take Duanling Tian as his direct disciple? If Duanling Tian really became Elder Dong Chong's direct disciple, he would not dare to act recklessly even if he was given 10 guts. Although he could make a move secretly, it would be fine if he succeeded. However, if he failed, he would be doomed eternally. Elder Dong Chong, thank you for your kindness. However, I don't plan to take you as my master for the time being. Duanling Tian smiled apologetically and said. The people who were shocked by Dong Chong taking the initiative to take Duanling Tian as his disciple were petrified when they heard Duanling Tian's words. This brat really doesn't know what's good for him. That's right. Elder Dong Chong taking him as his disciple means he thinks highly of him. I can't believe he rejected it. Many people scolded. They thought Duanling Tian had an exaggerated opinion of his own abilities. How despicable. Deng Yu's eyes gleamed brightly. He was relieved that Duan Lingtian had rejected Dong Chang's offer. Deng Wei's heart that was hanging in the air finally calmed down. As long as this purple-clad young man did not become Elder Dong Chang's direct disciple, he would be a piece of meat on his chopping board if he had the chance in the future. Perhaps he might not even have to make a move. Elder Lu Huan's people. They won't let the people from Mound Hill City go easily. Deng Wei thought to himself with a sinister smile. Dong Chong was stunned for a moment when he heard Duan Lingtian's direct rejection. When he regained his senses, he smiled awkwardly. "I've been rude. May I know your name, little friend?" Little friend. When everyone saw that not only was Dong Chong not angered by Duan Lingtian's rejection, but he even addressed Duan Lingtian as little friend, they were all dumbfounded. What was going on? At this moment, shouldn't Elder Dong Chong be the one to forcefully deprive this purple-clad young man of his opportunity to enter the Moon Illumination sect? Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian didn't expect Dong Chong to be so easy to talk to. He immediately responded with a smile. At the same time, he had a good impression of Dong Chong. Duan Lingtian. Dong Chong nodded and smiled at Duan Lingtian. Then he looked at the Moon Illumination sect's outer court disciple next to Duan Lingtian. "Bring Duan Lingtian to report to the outer court." "Yes." The outer court disciple responded. Then he brought Duan Lingtian away from the stone platform and headed to the Moon Illumination sect's outer court. When Duan Lingtian followed the outer court disciple, he turned his head to look at the city governor of Mound Hill City and nodded at him. Then he looked at Ling Yun and Jianghu. "I'll wait for you guys in the outer court," Duan Lingtian said to both of them through true energy voice transmission. Both of them nodded. Duan Lingtian knew Ling Yun and Jianghu's strength very well. Therefore he was certain they would pass the Moon Illumination sect's entrance assessment and become outer court disciples. However, Duan Lingtian had no idea. After he left the Moon Illumination sect's entrance assessment, 2 dark horses appeared among the remaining 30 over young geniuses on the Mastery Mortal Shedding stage. They defeated 2 young geniuses on the Perfection Mortal Shedding stage. These 2 dark horses successfully passed the Moon Illumination sect's entrance assessment and became outer court disciples. "Junior brother Duan, I can't believe you're so powerful when your cultivation base is only on the Mastery Mortal Shedding stage. This is really shocking." The Moon Illumination sect's outer court disciple could not help but exclaim when he brought Duan Lingtian to the outer court area. Duan Lingtian smiled but did not reply. At this moment he did not know how to continue the conversation. What's more unexpected is that Elder Dong Chong actually publicly accepted you as his direct disciple. Junior brother Duan, you're right to reject Elder Dong Chong. With your innate talent and strength, it's not impossible for you to be accepted as a direct disciple by an inner court elder as long as you stand out in the sect. The Moon Illumination sect's outer court disciple who was walking in front of Duan Lingtian continued, "As an outer court elder, Elder Dong Chong's position in the sect is only higher than the inner court deacons. Compared to the inner court elders, his position is still slightly lower. Do you think I rejected Elder Dong Chong because I want to become an inner court elder's disciple?" Duan Lingtian was stunned. He did not expect that his rejection of Elder Dong Chong would be interpreted as him looking down on Elder Dong Chong in the eyes of this person. "Isn't that the case?" the outer court disciple asked back. "Of course not." Duan Lingtian shook his head. "I've never thought of becoming an inner court elder's disciple. Junior brother Duan, your goal is really ambitious. I hope you'll succeed." The outer court disciple sighed emotionally. "Ambitious?" Duan Lingtian was stunned. "You know my goal?" "Of course." The outer court disciple nodded. "Since your goal isn't to become an inner court elder's disciple, then you must want to become the vice sect leader, or even supreme elder's disciple. However, junior brother Duan, I have to remind you of something. If your innate talent isn't too monstrous, the vice sect leader, and supreme elder won't accept you as their disciple. It's the same even if you can defeat opponents with a higher level. They value long-term innate talent more than temporary strength." The outer court disciple explained patiently to Duan Lingtian. It seemed as though he was trying his best to persuade him. Duan Lingtian was dumbfounded. In this guy's eyes, Duan Lingtian, had become someone who sucked up to the rich and powerful? At this moment he was too lazy to explain himself. At this moment, the more he explained, the worse it would get. Under the outer court disciple's lead, Duan Lingtian arrived at the outer court area of the Moon Illumination sect and received the personal token of the Moon Illumination sect's outer court disciple. As for the uniform, there was no requirement for him to wear a uniform. Duan Lingtian had noticed this long ago. Whether it was the Moon Illumination sect's outer court elder Dong Chong, the other two outer court deacons or the outer court disciple, all of them were wearing casual clothes. However, there was an eye-catching token hanging on their waistbands. It was the Moon Illumination sect's identity token. On the personal token that Duan Lingtian received, other than the words outer court disciple on the front, there were 3 new words carved on the back. His name. Junior brother Duan, I'll bring you to the outer court disciple's residence now. After the outer court disciple greeted Duan Lingtian, he brought him to the outer court disciple's residence. Senior brother Yang, I heard from my teacher that the Moon Illumination sect's outer court disciple's residence is divided into 3, 6, and 9 levels. The stronger one's ability, the better one's residence is. The weaker one's ability, the worse one's residence is. On the way, Duan Lingtian asked, is that so? During this journey, Duan Lingtian had become more familiar with this outer court disciple. He even learned his name Jianghu. Jianghu had entered the Moon Illumination sect 5 years ago. He was 43 years old this year, and his cultivation base had already entered the paramount mortal shedding stage. That's right. Jianghu nodded. The outer court disciple's residence is divided into 3 levels. The best is the independent courtyard. Not only are there quiet rooms to cultivate, but there's also a spacious courtyard to cultivate the Saint-grade martial tactic. The second is the independent stone house. The environment is much worse compared to the independent courtyard. Moreover, there's no place to cultivate the Saint-grade martial tactic. The outer court disciples who stay there can only cultivate the Saint-grade martial tactic in the training field. The worst is the independent wooden house. Among the wooden houses, the ones that were recently repaired are still fine. However, some of them haven't been repaired for a long time. They'll leak every time it rains. Jianghu told Duan Lingtian about the different levels of the outer court disciples' residence in one breath. Independent courtyard. Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up as he muttered to himself. He had a goal in mind. Although he did not have to worry about not having a place to cultivate the Saint-grade martial tactic even if he stayed in a stone house that was slightly worse than an independent courtyard. The 7 Treasures exquisite pagoda could provide him with a place to cultivate the Saint-grade martial tactic. However, since the best was available, it was only natural that he wanted the best. Junior brother Duan, don't tell me you're thinking about the independent courtyard? Jianghu's ears were sharp. He could not help but ask with his eyes wide open when he heard Duan Lingtian's muttering. Is there a problem? Duan Lingtian asked when he saw how surprised Jianghu was. Of course there's a problem. Jianghu smiled wryly. Junior brother Duan, do you know? Although I've broken through to the paramount mortal shedding stage 6 months ago, I'm still no match for the weakest person in the independent courtyard until now? The residents of the Moon Illumination sect's outer court disciples could be forcefully occupied with their strength. If one was more powerful than him, one could replace him. This rule was exactly the same as the latent dragon camp in the city governor's estate of Mound Hill City. Those who were more powerful would live in a better environment while those who were weaker would live in a worse environment. Are there very few independent courtyards? Duan Lingtian asked. He did not expect Jianghu, who had entered the Moon Illumination sect 5 years ago and was already at the paramount mortal shedding stage, would not live in an independent courtyard. There are a total of 100 of them, Jianghu replied. There are 100 of them. 100? That many? Duan Lingtian was shocked. There are so many independent courtyards, but you can't even get one? 100 of them isn't considered many? Jianghu smiled wryly. Every 5 years the sect will recruit outer court disciples from the outside. Every time they recruit, there will be over 100 of them. After 5 years, it would be considered good if half of these outer court disciples can pass the inner court test and become inner court disciples. Among these outer court disciples, many of them have been stuck at the paramount mortal shedding stage for 10, 15, or even 20 years due to various reasons. Since they can't break through to the Saint Rudiment stage and can't pass the inner court assessment, they're still in the outer court until now. The older ones among these senior brothers and senior sisters in the outer court are even close to 100 years old. Jianghu sighed. Close to 100 years old? Needless to say, Duan Lingtian was shocked by what Jianghu said. Yes. Jianghu nodded. There's a rule in the sect. If you can't enter the inner court after 100 years old, you'll be expelled from the sect. Naturally, there are many outer court disciples who left the sect before 100 years old because they know it's hopeless for them to enter the inner court. Chapter 1430. The journey of the martial Tao was like sailing against the current. If one did not advance, one would fall behind. For many martial and Tao cultivators with good innate talent and high comprehension, breaking through to the Saint Rudiment stage was only a matter of time. On the other hand, martial and Tao cultivators with mediocre innate talent and low comprehension might not be able to break through to the Saint Rudiment stage for the rest of their lives. The outer court disciples' residences have always been fixed at 100 independent courtyards and 300 independent stone houses. As for the independent wooden houses, the number is not fixed. Duan Lingtian had a certain understanding of the Moon Illumination sect's outer court disciples' residences from Jianghu. According to Jianghu, the Moon Illumination sect's outer court disciples who could stay in 100 independent courtyards were the best among the paramount mortal shedding stage. As for those who could stay in 300 independent stone houses, almost half of them were on the paramount mortal shedding stage. Apart from that, there were also some outer court disciples who were at the peak of the perfection mortal shedding stage. Unknowingly, Duan Lingtian followed Yang He to somewhere near the outer court disciples' residences. What entered his eyes was a vast martial arts practice field. Behind the training field were the residences with distinct levels. The ones closest to the training field were the wooden houses that were very close to each other. Some of the wooden houses were old and some were new. The old ones looked like they would collapse at any time. The outer court disciples who stay in the wooden houses are the weaker ones. However, the weakest outer court disciples who stay there are on the perfection mortal shedding stage, Yang He said. The wooden house area is the closest to the training field, so it's relatively noisier. The stone house area is behind the wooden house area, so it's relatively better. However, you can still hear what's going on in the training field. The small courtyard area is behind the stone house area. It's also the quietest area. You can barely hear anything from the training field. Yang He finished his sentence in one breath. When Duan Lingtian heard this, he looked over and saw rows of stone houses behind the rows of wooden houses. There were independent courtyards far behind the stone houses. There was an exquisite house in each of the courtyards. The courtyards were filled with flowers and plants. It was refreshing. Independent courtyards. At this moment, Duan Lingtian's desire for independent courtyards grew even stronger. He was determined to live in one of the independent courtyards. In the spacious outer court martial arts practice field, there were many outer court disciples practicing the Saint grade martial tactic. Some of the outer disciples were even sparring with each other. However, when it came to exchanging pointers, they would stop at a certain point. As a seventh-rate sect, the Moon Illumination sect had strict rules. Within the sect, killing and maiming were forbidden. Of course, the maiming here referred to injuries that couldn't be healed even with the use of healing pills. Duan Lingtian had been lucky enough to obtain an immortal spirit herb that could regrow a severed arm and leg. However, it was a legendary medicinal herb after all. Even in the entire Tao martial saint land, it was still extremely rare. Even the highest grade 9-star Saint tier healing pills did not have the ability to regrow a severed arm and a severed leg. Ah. This should be the junior brother who just passed the entrance exam, right? Yang He, aren't you going to introduce us? A voice resonated and pulled Duan Lingtian back from his thoughts. With just a glance, Duan Lingtian looked in the direction of the voice and saw 3 people walking towards him. The 3 of them were led by a middle-aged man. Behind the middle-aged man were 2 young men who were his followers. The middle-aged man who was the leader was laughing out loud. Damn it! He's got his eyes on us. Yang He's expression changed slightly, but he quickly regained his composure. He looked at the middle-aged man who had arrived in front of him and Duan Lingtian and greeted him respectfully, Senior Brother Tsengji. Duan Lingtian, this is Senior Brother Tsengji. Senior Brother Tsengji's strength is ranked at the 85th position among us outer court disciples. After greeting the middle-aged man, Yang He looked at Duan Lingtian and introduced him. After introducing him, he secretly said to Duan Lingtian through true energy voice transmission, Duan Lingtian, this Tsengji is an outer court disciple who lives in an independent courtyard. His cultivation base is close to the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage. He joined the sect 20 years ago, so he's considered a veteran in the outer court district of the sect. He often extorts saint stones from outer court disciples below the paramount mortal shedding stage. If he asks you for saint stones later, just pretend to be poor and give him some as a token of appreciation. If you give him too much, he'll target you again. Yang He's tone was mixed with a bit of fear towards Tsengji. Upon hearing this, Duan Lingtian glanced at Tsengji and greeted him nonchalantly, Senior Brother Tsengji. You're Duan Lingtian? What an arrogant name. Judging by your name, you must be from an extraordinary background. You must have a lot of saint stones with you, right? Since you've just joined the sect, you must be sensible and be filial to us, your senior brothers. Understand? Zheng Ji said meaningfully as he sized up Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian was stunned. It was an eye-opener for him to be able to describe extortion in such a dignified manner. Understand what? Duan Lingtian asked nonchalantly as if he really did not understand. Duan Lingtian. He did not expect Duan Lingtian to not only ignore him, but he even pretended to be dumb in front of Zheng Ji. His expression changed immediately as a worried expression appeared on his face. Perhaps Duan Lingtian's innate talent was good. However, Duan Lingtian was only at the mastery mortal shedding stage. Even if he could defeat an ordinary perfection mortal shedding stage powerhouse, it was impossible for him to be compared to an outer court disciple who was close to the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage like Zheng Ji. In his opinion, Duan Lingtian was going to suffer a great loss. Pretended to be dumb? As expected, Zheng Ji's face turned completely gloomy when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. He said in a deep voice, "Boy, in the past 20 years I've met many people like you who had just joined the sect and were reckless. Do you know what happened to them in the end? Let me tell you. Every one of them, including the ones who were in the best condition, were bedridden for an entire month." Zheng Ji's eyes gleamed when he reached the end of his sentence. A terrifying aura rose from his body all of a sudden and swept out toward Duan Lingtian like a hurricane. However, Duan Lingtian remained unmoved. "You're telling me this? Are you trying to tell me that you haven't become an inner court disciple even after 20 years in the sect?" Duan Lingtian asked with a smile. Boom. The moment Duan Lingtian's words left his mouth, it was like a bolt of lightning that shocked Yang He and the two outer court disciples behind Zheng Ji. Even Zheng Ji was dumbfounded. Not being able to break through to the Saint Rudiment stage and become an inner court disciple after 20 years in the sect. This had always been the biggest pain in Zheng Ji's heart. It was the biggest scar in his heart. He did not expect that someone would dare to reopen his scar today. Moreover, the person who reopened his scar was a hothead who had just entered the sect. "Boy, if I don't make you bedridden for 3 months, Zheng Ji, swear I'm not human." Before Yang He and the two outer court disciples behind Zheng Ji could react, Zheng Ji said with a solemn expression. He was practically shouting when he reached the end of his sentence. His voice rumbled like thunder in the sky above the training field, causing the group of outer court disciples in the training field to stop what they were doing and look over. "It's senior brother Zheng Ji." Judging from senior brother Zheng Ji's tone, it seems like someone has angered him. In the outer court, other than those senior brothers and senior sisters whom senior brother Zheng Ji can't afford to offend, nobody dares to anger senior brother Zheng Ji. This guy who angered senior brother Zheng Ji must have just entered the sect today. Looks like this hothead is in for a bad time. Let's go. Let's go and join in the fun. One by one, the Moon Illumination sect's outer court disciples surrounded Duan Lingtian. Did I say something wrong? In the face of the enraged Zheng Ji, Duan Lingtian asked with a smile. He did not seem to realize that Zheng Ji had almost lost his mind. "Both of you keep an eye on Yang He. If he dares to make a move, make him bedridden for 10 days to half a month. As for this boy, I'll teach him a lesson," Zheng Ji said to the two outer court disciples behind him. When he reached the end of his sentence, his sharp gaze landed on Duan Lingtian. He was filled with rage. "Senior brother Zheng, Duan Lingtian did not mean to offend you. Please have mercy on him." Horror dawned on Yang He's face. He was the one who brought Duan Lingtian in. If something happened to him, although he would not be punished, he would feel uneasy. "Yang He, you can't even protect yourself and you still care about others?" "That's right. If you dare to make a move, don't blame us for being impolite." The two outer court disciples stepped out from behind Zheng Ji and blocked Yang He's path on both sides as they sneered. Yang He's face was extremely grave. "Duan Lingtian, if only you didn't reject Elder Dong Chong and become his direct disciple. At the very least, if you become Elder Dong Chong's direct disciple, Zheng Ji won't dare to touch you as long as I say so." Yang He's heart was filled with bitterness. There was nothing he could do about Duan Lingtian's current predicament. He could only hope that Zheng Ji would show mercy. But he also knew that it was impossible. Duan Lingtian's words had violated Zheng Ji's taboo and completely enraged him. It had been 5 years since he entered the Moon Illumination sect, but this was his first time seeing Zheng Ji so enraged. At this moment, the group of outer court disciples on the training field had also surrounded them. They looked at Duan Lingtian and Zheng Ji, who were confronting each other as though they were watching a good show. This brat is really bold. He dares to offend senior brother Zheng Ji as soon as he entered the sect. There are close to 1,000 outer court disciples, and senior brother Zheng Ji's strength is ranked 85th. This brat who just entered the sect is seeking death by offending senior brother Zheng Ji. He'll soon find out why the flowers are so red. Mocking gazes landed on Duan Lingtian one after another. It was apparent that the group of outer court disciples who were watching did not think that Duan Lingtian would be able to gain an advantage over Zheng Ji. Looks like you've accumulated some prestige after staying in the outer court for 20 years. At the very least, they think you're going to defeat me. Duan Lingtian smiled faintly as he looked at Zheng Ji. You're seeking death. Chapter 1431. Duan Lingtian stood still like a mountain in the face of Zheng Ji, who was charging at him like a lightning bolt. Is he scared out of his wits? The group of outer court disciples who were watching thought Duan Lingtian had forgotten to dodge when they saw Zheng Ji approaching Duan Lingtian, but Duan Lingtian did not move at all. His strength is close to the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage. It's indeed extraordinary. At the very least, he's stronger than Xiao Zhui from Luojiang City and Su Qi from half a year ago. Nobody thought Duan Lingtian still had the time to think about other things when he was facing Zheng Ji's lightning-fast attack. After Zheng Ji arrived in front of Duan Lingtian, he punched out his fist. With a whoosh sound, it shot toward Duan Lingtian's abdomen like a rocket launcher. It set off a gust of wind and thunder wherever it passed. There were rules in the Moon Illumination sect that forbade killing and maiming. Therefore, Zheng Ji's punch did not hit Duan Lingtian's vital parts. His goal was to make Duan Lingtian lie in bed for 3 months. Moreover, to make a person lie in bed for 3 months without crippling them was undoubtedly a technical skill. Zheng Ji's eyes were red as he punched out like a collapsing mountain. His true energy was like a dragon as he charged toward Duan Lingtian's abdomen. In his opinion, this punch was enough to send this hothead who had just entered the sect flying. This is just the beginning. Zheng Ji thought to himself with hatred. At this moment he was extremely enraged. He vented his anger on Duan Lingtian. Great! Duan Lingtian did not dodge Zheng Ji, who was charging at him menacingly, because he did not want to. Although Zheng Ji's strength was not weak, he might still be able to fight him if he gave it his all. However, even if he gave it his all, it would still be difficult for him to defeat Zheng Ji. If he did not rely on the strange pupil, he would only be able to fight Zheng Ji to a draw at most. But now he had other ideas. He planned to activate the strange pupil without holding back and use its unpredictable spatial teleportation ability to defeat Zheng Ji and intimidate the other outer court disciples. When Zheng Ji's punch was about to land on him, Duan Lingtian's spiritual energy that he had long accumulated in his mind surged into his left eye without any reservation as he activated the strange pupil with all his might. In an instant, a small black vortex appeared in Duan Lingtian's left eye. The black vortex spun rapidly like a bottomless pool with no end in sight. If anyone noticed the abnormality in Duan Lingtian's left eye, they would definitely be lost in the black vortex. It wasn't just their eyes. Even their consciousness could be swallowed by it. Duan Lingtian activated his strange pupil without holding back. In his left eye's vision, Zheng Ji's fist became extremely slow, as if it had stopped moving. With a single thought from Duan Lingtian, Zheng Ji's fist instantly disappeared from its original position and shifted to Duan Lingtian's side. At the same time, Duan Lingtian's strange pupil relaxed. Boom, 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 boom. Zheng Ji's fist brushed past Duan Lingtian's robe, setting off a series of thunderous explosions, but it did not touch Duan Lingtian at all. How is this possible? This strange scene caused Zheng Ji's expression to change drastically. His eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. While Zheng Ji was still in shock and disbelief, Duan Lingtian struck out with lightning speed, mimicking Zheng Ji's punch, setting off the sound of wind and thunder as it landed heavily on Zheng Ji's abdomen. He was giving Zheng Ji a taste of his own medicine. Zheng Ji's body was brought forward by the momentum of the punch. It was as if he had taken the initiative to meet Duan Lingtian's punch head-on. Bang! With a loud bang, Zheng Ji let out a muffled groan. His body trembled and shot out like an arrow from a bow. It was as if his body was no longer under his control. As Zheng Ji flew out, Duan Lingtian did not show any mercy and quickly followed after him. When Zheng Ji's body was about to hit the ground after flying for tens of meters, Duan Lingtian kicked Zheng Ji's back with lightning speed, sending him flying. Zhengji, who had been holding back a mouthful of congested blood because of the punch earlier, was unwilling to spit it out. At this moment he could no longer hold back and spat out a mouthful of congested blood. It was to the extent that the turbulence that came from his internal organs caused him to spit out a few more mouthfuls of blood after spitting out the first mouthful. At the same time, Zhengji's body shot up into the air like a rocket. Bang! With another loud bang, Duan Lingtian stomped his feet on the ground, causing a spiderweb-like crack to appear on the ground. Then he used the force to shoot up and chased after Zhengji, who was in the air. Zhengji's expression changed when he heard the sound of wind whistling from below. He realized what kind of situation he was in. Without any hesitation, he hurriedly swallowed a healing elixir. After recovering some of his injuries, he quickly moved his hands and feet to turn around in the air. "You're courting death." Zhengji did not have time to think about why his punch had deviated. At this moment he was fully focused on Duan Lingtian, who was shooting up. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. His legs rotated like a windmill and he used the force to dive down. At this moment, a 7-foot-long spear appeared in Zhengji's hand. With a shake of the long spear, the tip of the spear flashed fiercely as if it could pierce through the sky. Then it swept down toward Duan Lingtian as if it wanted to crush Duan Lingtian with one strike. The long spear in Zhengji's hand was naturally not an ordinary weapon. This was a human-tier high-grade saint artifact. Even though Zhengji was heavily injured and could not display the power of his peak condition, the spear still created a gust of wind. Its might was unstoppable. Bang! Zhengji's heart skipped a beat. It was as though he could already see the purple-clad young man being crushed by him. However, he was shocked to find that a strange scene appeared again. The spear that was supposed to land on Duan Lingtian strangely appeared beside Duan Lingtian again. The powerful attack brushed past Duan Lingtian's robe again. His entire body was exposed to Duan Lingtian again. Perhaps it was an accident this time. However, was it really an accident this time? "Who the hell are you?" Zhengji was terrified. He was completely terrified. He looked at the purple-clad young man who was getting closer and closer. Fear rose from the bottom of his heart. The same strange thing had happened twice, but he could not figure out the reason behind it. He could not help but be afraid. At this moment, Duan Lingtian was no different from a ghost in his eyes. Bang! With another punch, Duan Lingtian sent Zhengji flying into the air again. Although there was a flight-prohibiting formation above the Moon Illumination Sect's estate that prevented him from flying, Duan Lingtian still managed to catch up to Zhengji quickly. I admit defeat. What are you trying to do?" Zhengji spat out a few mouthfuls of blood again. He was so injured that he no longer had the will to fight. Horror dawned on his face when he saw Duan Lingtian catching up to him. Currently, he no longer dared to make a move against Duan Lingtian. What a joke. His attack could not even touch Duan Lingtian. Although my spiritual energy has become much stronger after I've broken through to the Mastery Mortal Shedding stage, I can only activate the strange pupil twice at most. It's very difficult. Duan Lingtian felt dizzy when he caught up to Zhengji. It was a sign that his spiritual energy had been drained. He did not doubt it at all. If Zhengji attacked him now, he would not be able to block it at all. Apart from the dizziness, he felt his limbs were weak and powerless. At this moment he could not attack Zhengji anymore. He could only step on Zhengji's body and fall from the sky. Zhengji sighed in relief when he saw Duan Lingtian did not attack him. However, a moment later, the sound of wind whistling entered his ears. He was getting closer to the ground, but Duan Lingtian had no intention of stopping him from falling. Horror dawned on his face. Boom, boom. Although he was severely injured, he did not hesitate at all. He threw 2 punches at the ground nearby, stirring up 2 rolling airwaves that slammed onto the ground. The 2 rebounding forces slowed down his falling speed. At this moment, Zhengji was completely exhausted. He allowed his body to smash onto the ground, stirring up dust. He sighed in relief when he felt the pain coming from every part of his body. Fortunately, he had thrown 2 punches earlier. Otherwise, he would be the first outer court disciple to fall to his death in the history of the Moon Illumination Sect. At the same time, Duan Lingtian landed next to Zhengji and looked down at him from above. His eyes were cold and emotionless. I admit defeat. Zhengji was completely terrified now. He struggled to speak with the last of his strength. Gasp. At the same time, the group of outer court disciples who were watching finally regained their senses from the shock earlier. They burst into an uproar. The scene earlier was still vivid in their minds. Zhengji had been in the sect for 20 years. His cultivation base was close to the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage, but he was beaten up by an outer court disciple who had just joined the sect. They would not have believed it if they had not seen it with their own eyes. Am I seeing things? I'm not dreaming, am I? Isn't this too exaggerated? Many outer court disciples rubbed their eyes. Some even pinched their thighs hard. They only realized they were not dreaming when they felt the pain. Jianghu was dumbfounded. He was completely dumbfounded. Although he knew Duan Lingtian was strong, he did not expect him to be this powerful. He had defeated Zhengji with his cultivation base at the mastery mortal shedding stage. Although he also felt that the scene just now was inconceivable, the truth was right in front of him. Zhengji himself had admitted defeat, so even if he didn't dare to believe it, it was still the truth, an ironclad truth. I'll take your independent courtyard. Do you have any objections? Duan Lingtian asked in a deep voice as he looked down at Zhengji. He was relying on his willpower to support himself. Otherwise, he would have collapsed like Zhengji since his spiritual energy was almost depleted. And no objections. Zhengji tried hard to shake his head, but he realized he could not move at all. He could only reply in a hoarse voice with a bitter expression. Senior brother Jianghu, please bring me to the independent courtyard where he stayed before. Duan Lingtian's gaze flashed past the two outer court disciples that were originally following behind Zhengji, scaring them to the point their faces went pale. After continuously retreating a few steps, his gaze descended onto Jianghu. All right. Chapter 1432. Duan Lingtian noticed. After he defeated Zhengji, Jianghu's attitude toward him had changed completely. He was now humble. Although it was not to the extent of groveling, he was no longer as casual as before. Duan Lingtian merely shook his head. He was not surprised at all. The Tao Martial Saint Land had always been about the strong ones being respected. The strength he displayed was enough to intimidate the Moon Illumination sect's outer court and make all the outer court disciples fear him. This was also his purpose. Otherwise, he would not have risked exhausting his spiritual energy to use the strange pupil twice. He did that to establish his authority. Putting aside the fact that he was new here, it was easy for people to look down on him. Even the enmity between his teacher, the city governor of Mound Hill City, Fang Hui, and the inner court elder, Lu Huan, forced him to do this. If he did not establish his authority earlier, would there not be a group of outer court disciples who would take the initiative to provoke him just to suck up to Lu Huan? Although this would not solve the problem once and for all, it was still much better than before. At the very least, after establishing his authority today, there would not be more than 100 outer court disciples who would dare to provoke him in the future. This was his purpose. As senior brother Duan, I'll take my leave first. After sending Duan Lingtian to the independent courtyard where Zhengji stayed, Jianghu changed his way of addressing him in a timely manner. He no longer dared to address Duan Lingtian as junior brother. Although Duan Lingtian was younger than him, in the Tao Martial Saint Land, one's strength was more important than one's age and experience. Since Duan Lingtian was more powerful than him, he was, naturally, qualified to be addressed as senior brother. Thanks. After thanking him, Duan Lingtian no longer said anything to Jianghu. He turned around and walked into the independent courtyard. He knew very well in his heart. After the battle earlier, Jianghu could no longer be as casual as before in front of him. Due to this reason he did not bother to say anything. He and Jianghu had only met by chance. If Jianghu had not become unfamiliar with him because of the strength he displayed, he would not have relied on his strength to get along with Jianghu in a condescending manner. Duan Lingtian was not the kind of person who would bully others just because they were not as strong as him. If he was that kind of person, he wouldn't have called Jianghu senior brother from the very beginning, because he already knew that his strength was stronger than Jianghu's. No matter what, Jianghu was only an outer court disciple who had just broken through to the paramount mortal shedding stage. Even if he did not use the strange pupil, he was confident that he could defeat him. When Duan Lingtian walked into the independent courtyard, what entered his eyes was a stone table and 3 stone stools. Behind it was an exquisite little house. He pushed the door open and entered. He could see the simple environment inside. Other than a bed, there were only a few decorations left. Because of the decorations in the room, it didn't look monotonous. After casually closing the door and making sure that the windows in the room were airtight, Duan Lingtian took out the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda and turned it into a speck of dust. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian disappeared from the room with just a thought. Naturally, he did not really disappear. Instead, he entered the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Walao! The first thing Duan Lingtian did after entering the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda was not to cultivate on the second level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Instead he looked for Huolao. At this moment, Duan Lingtian's eyes were filled with indescribable excitement as he looked at Huolao. I refined the little devil dragon's blood and refined a total of 5 drops of blood essence. All 5 drops of blood essence are here. As Huolao spoke, he tossed out a small bottle as though it was trash. When Duan Lingtian saw the small bottle flying over, he hurriedly caught it in a panic. He was worried that it would fall to the ground and break. You only need to use 1 drop. As for the other 4 drops, you can give them to others. Huolao said. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and nodded slowly. If he used 1 drop, he could give 2 of the remaining 4 drops to his 2 fiancées. As for the remaining 2 drops, he could give them to Little Black, Little White, or Little Gold. As for his 2 unborn children, he did not take them into consideration. It was not that he had forgotten about them. Instead, he felt that the 5-clawed devil dragon's blood essence could be used more effectively. Whether it was his 2 fiancées or the 3 little fellows, they were not far away from the Saint Rudiment stage. The 5-clawed devil dragon's blood essence was only useful for consolidating the variant beast phenomenon. As for his 2 unborn children, who knew when they would break through to the Saint Rudiment stage? Moreover, he believed that by the time his 2 children broke through to the Saint Rudiment stage, he would definitely have the ability to obtain the other 5-clawed divine dragon's blood essence. I suggest you give the 2 drops of the little devil dragon's blood essence to the white-clad little girl and the black-clad little boy. Huolao said. Little White? Little Black? Duan Lingtian naturally knew who the white-clad little girl and black-clad little boy that Huolao mentioned were. Their true forms are originally WRM pythons. If they can integrate with the little devil dragon's blood essence, it can transform their bloodline. Huolao added. Duan Lingtian naturally believed Huolao's words without a doubt. It seems like Little Gold is not fated with the 5-clawed devil dragon's blood essence. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. Should I avoid Little Gold when I give the 5-clawed devil dragon's blood essence to Little Black and Little White? After greeting Huolao, Duan Lingtian went up to the second level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. After he sat down cross-legged, he took out a drop of the 5-clawed devil dragon's blood essence from the small bottle. As expected of the 5-clawed devil dragon's blood essence. It's so rich. Duan Lingtian was secretly shocked when he looked at the 5-clawed devil dragon's blood essence in his hand. He could clearly feel that this drop of 5-clawed devil dragon's blood essence exuded a majestic blood chi after it left the bottle. If it was an ordinary person, this blood chi would have killed him. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. As for the integration method of the 5-clawed devil dragon's blood essence, it was not difficult at all. He just had to guide his true chi to divide it and bring it into his body so it could circulate through his saint veins. 9 Dragons War Sovereign Technique. 9 Dragons Transformation. In Duan Lingtian's body, the 9 dragons carried his true chi and the devil dragon's blood essence and circulated it in great cycles. It was no different from when he was cultivating normally. After circulating about 30 great cycles, Duan Lingtian could feel that the blood essence had already spread throughout his body through the 52 saint veins in his body and integrated into his body. He could clearly feel the changes in his entire body due to the integration of the blood essence. Whether it was his flesh and blood, his bones and tendons, even his skin. They seemed to have undergone earth-shattering changes. They had become more powerful than before. Could it be an illusion? Duan Lingtian secretly gasped. As far as he knew, an ordinary martial cultivator or Dao cultivator before the perfection Saint Rudiment stage would not have any changes in their body even if they integrated the Saint Beast's blood essence. They could only condense the corresponding strange beast phenomenon when they were at the perfection Saint Rudiment stage. Other than that, the Saint Beast's blood essence had no other use. However, now, he had integrated the 5-clawed devil dragon's blood essence and discovered that his body seemed to have undergone earth-shattering changes again. The reason why he said, again, was because he had experienced this change when the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda used the remaining energy to transform his body. Of course, the change this time was not as exaggerated as the previous time. I don't know if it's an illusion or if my body has really become stronger again. After taking a deep breath, Duan Lingtian began to experiment. Boom, 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 boom. Duan Lingtian did not use any true chi. He only moved with the strength of his body. He punched and kicked, dancing rapidly in the air. Unsurprisingly, wherever his punches and kicks passed, there would be a series of explosions. I've really become stronger. After experimenting for a while, Duan Lingtian stopped moving and lowered his head to look at his spread hands. His eyes were filled with excitement and disbelief. After experimenting, Duan Lingtian could clearly see the changes in his entire body. Although the changes this time were not as exaggerated as the previous time, the improvement was still great. With my transformed body, even if I don't use the strange pupil's ability, I'm confident that I can defeat that Zhengji if I fight him again. Duan Lingtian was filled with confidence. If he did not use the unpredictable ability of the strange pupil previously, he would only be able to fight Zhengji to a draw at most. On this point he was still aware of his own limitations. Now, even if I don't use the unpredictable ability of the strange pupil, I'll be able to fight a martial or Dao cultivator at the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage. Even an ordinary martial or Dao cultivator at the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage might not be a match for me. After his body had integrated with the five-clawed devil dragon's blood essence, the transformation that had happened again filled Duan Lingtian with confidence. It was an indomitable and indestructible confidence. Moreover, these are not the only benefits the five-clawed devil dragon's blood essence has brought me. When I break through to the perfection saint rudiment stage, I'll be able to consolidate the divine dragon phenomenon with this drop of five-clawed devil dragon's blood essence that has integrated into my body today. It'll be a five-clawed divine dragon phenomenon. When Duan Lingtian thought of this, he became even more excited. At this moment, he could already see the scene of him fighting alongside the five-clawed divine dragon phenomenon after he had broken through to the perfection saint rudiment stage. His strength could be said to be invincible among those of the same level. If he had the five-clawed divine dragon phenomenon, it would be like adding wings to a tiger. I'm confident. When I break through to the perfection saint rudiment stage, I'll be invincible among those below the saint stage. After half a day, Duan Lingtian finally suppressed the excitement in his heart. The most important thing now is to break through to the perfection saint rudiment stage. Once I break through again, let alone being invincible among those below the saint rudiment stage, even those at the early saint rudiment stage might not be a match for me. When he thought of this, Duan Lingtian immediately sat cross-legged and began to cultivate diligently with the saint stone in his hand. Apart from the transformation of the Qi and the change of the true energy at the early and intermediate saint rudiment stage, there were no other special techniques. Special techniques could only be mastered and used when one broke through to the mastery saint rudiment stage. Chapter 1433. The true energy consolidated weapon was a divine weapon that could be formed from one's true energy to assist one's opponent without affecting one's attack. The divine weapon would fight side by side with one's opponent. It was a powerful technique for those above the mastery saint rudiment stage. Due to this technique, the gap between the mastery saint rudiment stage and the intermediate saint rudiment stage was huge. If a mastery saint rudiment stage powerhouse did not use the true energy consolidated weapon, an intermediate saint rudiment stage powerhouse would be able to hold on for a while even if they could not defeat a mastery saint rudiment stage powerhouse. However, once they used the true energy consolidated weapon, they could defeat an intermediate saint rudiment stage powerhouse in just a blink of an eye. It was similar to the scene when Zhou Qi, the direct disciple of the Moon Illumination sect's inner court elder Lu Huan, fought with Fang Hui, the city governor of Mound Hill City in the city governor's estate of Mound Hill City. Initially, Fang Hui was able to hold his ground against Zhou Qi. However, when Zhou Qi consolidated the divine weapon, the gigantic hammer, with his true energy, and smashed down, Fang Hui was suppressed and defeated. The gap between the mastery saint rudiment stage and the intermediate saint rudiment stage was obvious. Although the gap between the two cultivation bases was only one level, the gap was as wide as a chasm when the former attacked with all his might. It was an insurmountable chasm. Duan Lingtian was cultivating on the second level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda and had forgotten about everything. Therefore he did not know that the outside world was in an uproar because he had defeated Zhengji. An outer court disciple who had just entered the sect had defeated Zhengji, who was ranked 85th in the outer court before he even found his own place on the first day. In the history of our Moon Illumination sect, I don't think there's anyone who has just entered the sect who has defeated the top 100 in the outer court, right? Our Moon Illumination sect has always only recruited young geniuses below the age of 40. Perhaps these young geniuses have a good innate talent, but it's impossible for them to defeat those who are ranked in the top 100 in the outer court when they just entered the sect. Which one of the top 100 in the outer court isn't close to the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage? These people can completely crush an ordinary martial cultivator at the paramount mortal shedding stage. Looks like that outer court disciple Duan Lingtian who had just entered the sect has created a new history in the sect. A history of defeating 100 outer court disciples as soon as he entered the sect. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have dared to believe that such a freak exists. Even in the Dao martial saint land, such a freak can be considered as a rare genius in the martial Dao, right? In the outer sect, a group of senior outer sect disciples were discussing animatedly. They were all talking about how Duan Lingtian had crushed Zhengji. Their faces were full of shock. Even though many outer sect disciples had seen Zhengji's fist move in a strange manner and avoid Duan Lingtian's attack during his first attack, they were still shocked. But almost all of them thought that they were seeing things. As for the second time when Zhengji used the Saint Artifact Spear, they didn't see it because they were too far away. Otherwise the current topic would have revolved around this. Jianghu, you were the one who brought that Duan Lingtian in. Do you know where he came from? Soon after, many people came to Jianghu. They were all curious about Duan Lingtian's background. They were curious as to what kind of treasured land could give birth to such a monstrous figure. I don't know. Jianghu shook his head. Earlier, he had gone up to the back of the stone platform to receive Duan Lingtian, so he did not hear the group of people whispering in front of the stone platform. He did not know that Duan Lingtian was from Mount Hill City. I really didn't expect the outer court disciples recruited by the sect this time to be of such high quality. That Duan Lingtian seems to be the 13th person at the paramount mortal shedding stage. An outer court disciple exclaimed. 10 years ago when I passed the entrance assessment and entered the sect, there were only 9 people at the paramount mortal shedding stage. Another outer court disciple could not help but sigh. That's still much better than the time I entered the sect. That time, there were only 5 people at the paramount mortal shedding stage. Another outer court disciple said. At that moment, the few outer court disciples who surrounded Jianghu began to sigh. Each of them kept shaking their heads as though they wanted to shake their heads off. He's not at the paramount mortal shedding stage. Jianghu said with a frown. Jianghu's words were like a drop of rain during a drought. It attracted the attention of the surrounding outer court disciples, causing them to shut their mouths immediately. Jianghu, who are you saying is not at the paramount mortal shedding stage? Don't tell me you're talking about Duan Lingtian? What a joke. Duan Lingtian was someone who had defeated Zhengji. Even the 12 people at the paramount mortal shedding stage who entered the sect before him had to hand over the saint stones obediently when Zhengji extorted them. Now you're saying Duan Lingtian is not at the paramount mortal shedding stage? Jianghu, don't think we're gullible. The crowd of outer sect disciples surrounding Jianghu once again burst into an uproar. He's really not at the paramount mortal shedding stage. Jianghu smiled wryly. He was not surprised that the people in front of him did not believe him. If he were in their shoes, he would not believe that the person who defeated Zhengji was not at the paramount mortal shedding stage. The few outer court disciples frowned when they saw the wry smile on Jianghu's face. Jianghu did not look like he was lying. Don't tell me he's at the Saint Rudiment stage? One of the outer court disciples gasped and asked. Saint Rudiment stage. The other outer court disciples were shocked as well. They gulped at the same time and looked at Jianghu eagerly. Jianghu, don't tell me he's really at the Saint Rudiment stage? If he's at the Saint Rudiment stage, then everything can be explained. A Saint Rudiment stage powerhouse, even if he's only at the early Saint Rudiment stage, let alone Zhengji, even the strongest person in our Moon Illumination sect's outer court might not be a match for him. That's right. Soon, the few outer court disciples came to a consensus. He's not a Saint Rudiment stage martial cultivator. Jianghu shook his head. He's also a mortal shedding stage martial cultivator like us. Mortal shedding stage martial cultivator? You mean, he's just a perfection mortal shedding stage martial cultivator? An outer court disciple asked with a frown. Jianghu said the outer court disciple Duan Lingtian who overpowered Zhengji as soon as he entered the sect is only at the perfection mortal shedding stage martial cultivator. Do you believe me? Another outer court disciple shouted at the outer court disciples in the distance as if he wanted to see the world in chaos. Duan Lingtian is at the perfection mortal shedding stage? The group of outer court disciples in the distance snorted. You must be kidding. A perfection mortal shedding stage martial cultivator overpowered senior brother Zhengji whose strength is ranked 85th in the outer court? Jianghu, are you dreaming? Perhaps, Even Yang He didn't expect the new disciple he brought into the sect would be someone more powerful than senior brother Zhengji. Yang He, are you feeling inferior after witnessing the strength of the other party? Is that why you came up with such an excuse to overpower him in terms of cultivation base? More and more outer court disciples gathered around and mocked Yang He. Yang He's face turned red from the mockery. In the end he could no longer hold it in and exploded. I didn't say he's at the perfection mortal shedding stage. Let me tell you, he's a mastery mortal shedding stage martial cultivator. Mastery mortal shedding stage. One must admit that Yang He's words carried a lot of weight. At the very least, the more than 10 outer court disciples who surrounded him fell silent as though someone was choking their necks when his words left his mouth. Yang He could not help but feel smug when he saw that the crowd was dumbstruck. Are they shocked? He's crazy. This Yang He is crazy. If he's not crazy, he must be sleepwalking. What he's saying must be nonsense. A mastery mortal shedding stage martial cultivator defeated a paramount mortal shedding stage powerhouse? Moreover, it's a one-sided victory. This must be the biggest joke I've ever heard in my life. Yang He, you should take your medicine. The more than 10 outer court disciples were stunned by Yang He's words before they mocked him even more. They did not believe that Duan Lingtian was at the perfection mortal shedding stage. Naturally, they did not believe that Duan Lingtian was at the mastery mortal shedding stage. You're the crazy ones. You're the one who's sleep-talking. You should take your medicine. Yang He glared at them and shouted, it's fine if you don't believe me. I don't care if you believe me. Anyway, you'll know if I'm telling the truth when the other people who passed the entrance assessment come in. After shouting, Yang He walked out of the crowd and returned to his stone house. His heart was filled with grievances. Only more than 10 outer court disciples were left looking at each other. Yang He seems to have been cornered by us. He's quite good at pretending. At first I still believed him. After all, it's not impossible for a perfection mortal shedding stage powerhouse to defeat a paramount mortal shedding stage powerhouse. It's just not that exaggerated. Yes, I believed him at first. However, he said Duan Lingtian was at the mastery mortal shedding stage instead of the perfection mortal shedding stage. Does he really think we're idiots? Defeating a paramount mortal shedding stage powerhouse with a mastery mortal shedding stage cultivation base? Moreover, he defeated someone who was close to the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage? What a fool's dream. The group of outer court disciples cursed. They did not believe what Yang He said at all. Someone's coming in. It's Peng Jia. I remember that Peng Jia followed the outer court deacon to the assessment site today. That unfamiliar face beside him is also someone who just passed the entrance assessment? Suddenly, an outer court disciple with sharp eyes looked into the distance and shouted, that unfamiliar face. Have you seen him before? I've never seen him before. I've never seen him before either. It seems like he's really a new disciple who just passed the entrance assessment to enter the sect. Let's go. Let's ask them. That's right. Ask them clearly so that we can slap Yang He in the face the next time we see him. He tried to fool us, but he got anxious when he failed. He's quite good at pretending. More than 10 outer court disciples shouted as they walked toward the two people who were walking in the distance. Chapter 1434. The unfamiliar young man was looking around in surprise. It was obvious that it was his first time in the Moon Illumination sect's outer court. Hey, Peng Jia, is this person next to you an outer court disciple who just passed the entrance assessment and entered the sect? A group of outer court disciples swarmed out and many of them asked in unison. You guys are... The outer court disciple called Peng Jia was stunned when he saw more than 10 of his fellow disciples surrounding him. He did not even realize what they were asking. He was stunned by the scene before him. The young man next to Peng Jia also came to a halt. Hello, senior brothers. I'm Luo Kong. I've just passed the entrance assessment and entered the sect. Please guide me in the future. The young man heard the crowd's question and forced a smile after taking a deep breath. He was polite. Ah, you're right. Many of them laughed at once. Luo Kong, let me ask you. Do you know Duan Lingtian who passed the entrance assessment and entered the sect before you? An outer court disciple took the lead and asked. The other outer court disciples next to him looked at Luo Kong eagerly as though they were waiting for his answer. I know senior brother Duan, but he might not know me. Luo Kong smiled wryly. Luo Kong could not help but feel respect for the purple-clad young man when he thought about him. He was the first young genius who defeated a perfection mortal shedding stage mastery mortal shedding stage before him. Moreover, the process of him defeating the perfection mortal shedding stage was extremely fast and exaggerated. Although he also defeated a perfection mortal shedding stage young genius with his mastery mortal shedding stage cultivation base, it was because his opponent had just broken through to the perfection mortal shedding stage last month. Even so, he had to spend a lot of effort to defeat his opponent. The entire process went on for almost an hour. If that's the case, you know Duan Ling Tian. Then do you know what cultivation base he has? The group of Moon Illumination sect's outer court disciples' eyes lit up when they heard Luo Kang knew Duan Ling Tian. One or two of them asked impatiently. Yes. Although Luo Kang did not know why these outer court disciples were interested in this, he nodded anyway. It was not a secret. Almost everyone who was still at the assessment site knew Duan Ling Tian's cultivation base. What cultivation level? The group of outer sect disciples stared at Luo Kang expectantly, making him feel a little scared. At this moment, Luo Kang even had a feeling that if he didn't tell them, he would be committing a crime. Late-stage mortal shedding realm. Under the expectant gazes of more than a dozen people, Luo Kang said truthfully. As soon as Luo Kang finished speaking, the dozen or so outer sect disciples were instantly petrified. Each and every one of them was like a statue standing there motionless. Seeing this, Luo Kang was dumbfounded. Did his words have that much power? What are you doing? Peng Jia frowned and asked in confusion. He was already cursing in his heart. These guys making such a fuss in front of a new outer disciple, don't they feel ashamed? Of course, he only dared to curse in his heart and did not dare to curse out loud. Among the dozen or so outer sect disciples in front of him, nearly half of them were stronger than him. They were existences that he could not afford to offend. You are sure he's at the late-stage mortal shedding stage? The outer sect disciple, who was the first to recover from his shock, stared straight into Luo Kang's eyes with a gaze as sharp as an eagle's as he asked with a trembling voice. Yes. Luo Kang nodded. He faintly felt that the reason why the group of outer sect disciples were behaving like this was most likely related to senior brother Duan. Senior brother Duan is the first person before me who defeated a young genius on the perfection mortal shedding stage with his mastery mortal shedding stage cultivation base and entered the sect. I know about this too. That Duan Ling Tian is indeed impressive. Before that young genius on the perfection mortal shedding stage could react, he had already appeared behind him in a flash and defeated him. Peng Jia could not help but exclaim. At that time, although he was very far away, he clearly saw that scene. He's really on the mastery mortal shedding stage. Yang, he didn't lie. Oh my god. What kind of monster is that Duan Ling Tian? After Luo Kang and Peng Jia's confirmation, the group of outer sect disciples no longer had any doubts. They finally confirmed that Duan Ling Tian was indeed a martial cultivator on the mastery mortal shedding stage. At that moment, they looked at each other and saw the shock and disbelief in each other's eyes. What exactly happened? Peng Jia felt that something was amiss and could not help but ask. Luo Kang was also puzzled. He had no idea what had happened. Soon after, Peng Jia and Luo Kang finally found out what had happened after an outer sect disciple reminded them. Duan Ling Tian had defeated an outer sect disciple as soon as he entered the outer sect. That outer sect disciple was called Zhengji. At that moment, Luo Kang did not think much of it. After all, it only took Duan Ling Tian a blink of an eye to defeat a young genius on the perfection mortal shedding stage. Even if Duan Ling Tian could defeat an outer sect disciple at the peak of the perfection mortal shedding stage in the Moon Illumination sect, he would not find it strange. However, Luo Kang reacted that way because he did not know who Zhengji was. What? He defeated Zhengji? Luo Kang did not know who Zhengji was, but Peng Jia did. Because of that, he was stunned for a long time after he found out about what had happened. When he finally regained his senses, he screamed out loud. Not only did he defeat Zhengji, but it was a one-sided crushing. From the beginning until the end, Zhengji had no strength to fight back at all. An outer sect disciple added. What? Peng Jia was dumbfounded. He was dumbstruck again. Luo Kang was shocked as well. After the entrance assessment held by the Moon Illumination sect today, he had a certain understanding of the Moon Illumination sect's outer sect disciples' strength. Apart from them who had joined today, the rest of the Moon Illumination sect's outer sect disciples had joined 5 years ago. Those people were either the best among the Mastery Mortal Shedding stage or the Perfection Mortal Shedding stage 5 years ago. Some of them were even on the Paramount Mortal Shedding stage. Naturally, most of them were on the Perfection Mortal Shedding stage. Therefore, the senior outer sect disciples in the Moon Illumination sect should be at least on the Perfection Mortal Shedding stage. Most of them should be at the peak of the Perfection Mortal Shedding stage. If Zhengji is at the peak of the Perfection Mortal Shedding stage, isn't senior brother Duan's strength too ridiculous? A one-sided crushing? Luo Kang sucked in a breath of cold air. No. Maybe Zhengji is ranked at the bottom among the senior outer sect disciples. He's just an ordinary Perfection Mortal Shedding stage. Luo Kang comforted himself again. Are you sure you're not mistaken? Duan Lingtian crushed Zhengji one-sidedly to the point that Zhengji couldn't fight back at all? Peng Jia asked with uncertainty as he looked at the outer court disciple who added to Duan Lingtian's story. I'm sure. The outer court disciple nodded. We saw it with our own eyes. Moreover, Duan Lingtian has already occupied Zhengji's independent courtyard. He's the first outer court disciple in the history of our Moon Illumination sect to stay in an independent courtyard as soon as he entered the outer court district. Independent courtyard? Peng Jia's eyes narrowed as he trembled in shock. Luo Kang could not help but gasp as well. When he arrived at the outer court district earlier, he had learned about the living environment in the outer court district from Peng Jia. He knew there were only 100 of the best independent courtyards. Those who could stay in the independent courtyards were powerful people who ranked in the top 100 in the outer court. In fact, there were close to 1,000 outer court disciples in the Moon Illumination sect. According to Peng Jia, the weakest among the 100 outer court disciples who could stay in the independent courtyards was close to the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage. They were the backbone of the Moon Illumination sect's outer court. A senior brother Duan defeated someone who stayed in the independent courtyard? And it was one-sidedly crushing? After Peng Jia, Luo Kang's eyes narrowed as well. His body trembled as his legs turned to jelly. He almost fell to the ground. As more than 10 outer court disciples left in shock, apart from those outer court disciples who were cultivating in closed-door cultivation, everyone in the outer court district knew about Duan Lingtian's cultivation base. The entire outer court district was in an uproar. Did you hear? The Duan Lingtian who single-sidedly crushed and defeated Zhengji is only a mastery mortal shedding stage martial cultivator. Monster. That Duan Lingtian is a monster. It's already shocking to be able to defeat someone who's at a higher level. However, he defeated someone who's 2 levels higher. How terrifying. The outer court district that was originally like a pool of stagnant water became lively. Apart from those outer court disciples who were in closed-door cultivation, the rest of the outer court disciples knew that an absolute monster had entered the sect. He was someone who could defeat someone who was 2 levels higher than him. However, Duan Lingtian was unaware of the commotion that was going on outside. The Moon Illumination sect had strict rules. It was different from the latent dragon camp in the city governor's estate of Mound Hill City. In the Moon Illumination sect, unless there was a great enmity between them, they were not allowed to disturb each other when they were in closed-door cultivation. Of course, in order to prevent some people from being afraid to face setbacks and difficulties, the Moon Illumination sect also had rules to restrict such people. The former was not allowed to disturb the latter when he was in closed-door cultivation. However, one could post a battle invitation at the door of the room where he was cultivating and challenge the other party to a battle. The battle invitation had to be submitted to the outer court elder's office. It would only be effective if it had the outer court elder's fingerprint on it. Naturally, if one could not find an outer court elder, one could also find 2 outer court deacons. As long as they jointly put their fingerprint on the battle invitation, it would be effective as well. There were 2 ways to post a battle invitation. First, it was an ordinary sparring. One was not allowed to kill or injure anyone. Second, it was a death duel. If it was a death duel, one would need to find 2 outer court elders and ask them to put their fingerprint on the death duel's battle invitation. Generally speaking, unless there was an irreconcilable enmity between them, nobody would simply post a death duel invitation. Chapter 1435. Apart from the fingerprints of the 2 outer court elders, the death duel invitation also had to have the fingerprints of both parties involved in the duel. If one party had issued the death duel invitation and the other party had accepted it, it would be a fight to the death. It was fine if the other party did not accept it. However, the party who issued the death duel invitation had a legitimate reason to teach the other party a lesson. As long as the other party was not killed or crippled, they could do whatever they wanted. That was the death duel invitation. As long as the invitation was issued, The other party would have to accept it as long as they had seen the invitation when they had stepped out of their room. If they rejected it, the person who issued the invitation would have a legitimate reason to enter their room and duel with them even if they were cultivating in closed-door cultivation. The death duel invitation was a special feature of the Moon Illumination sect. The entrance assessment of the Moon Illumination sect had finally ended when it was close to evening. Apart from the 12 young geniuses on the Paramount Mortal Shedding stage who had passed the entrance assessment, 3 young geniuses on the Mastery Mortal Shedding stage had passed the assessment as well. 3 of the hundreds of young geniuses on the Perfection Mortal Shedding stage were eliminated. The rest entered the outer court of the Moon Illumination sect together. When the outer court elder, Dong Chong, and the 2 outer court deacons brought hundreds of young geniuses at the Perfection Mortal Shedding stage into the outer court district, they learned about the news that was spreading in the outer court district. Duan Lingtian, an outer court disciple on the Mastery Mortal Shedding stage who had just entered the outer court, had single-handedly defeated Zhengji, who was ranked 85th in the outer court, and snatched his independent courtyard. How's that possible? He's only on the Mastery Mortal Shedding stage. How could he defeat someone who's close to the peak of the Paramount Mortal Shedding stage? Impossible. Even if that's true, Zhengji must have discussed it with him. They must have known each other for a long time and put on a show. The group of young geniuses on the Perfection Mortal Shedding stage who had just entered the Moon Illumination sect clamored. Most of them did not believe that Duan Lingtian had really defeated Zhengji. In the crowd, Ling Yun and Xionghu looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Senior brother Duan actually defeated someone who's ranked 85th in the outer court? Xionghu took in a breath of cold air. At this moment, it was not just the group of Moon Illumination sect's new disciples. Even the outer court elder, Dong Chong, and the other 2 outer court deacons were shocked as well. At this moment, they even suspected that Zhengji was acquainted with Duan Lingtian. Even in their eyes, this matter was inconceivable. If Zhou Qi finds out about this, I'm afraid he'll think that he's as blind as a bat. He only brought Su Qi away and didn't bring senior brother Duan with him. Ling Yun's eyes flashed as he thought to himself. Zhou Qi, the direct disciple of the Moon Illumination sect's inner court elder Lu Huan, had arrived at the city governor's estate of Mound Hill City half a year ago. He had killed 2 great St. Rudiment stage powerhouses from the city governor's estate of Mound Hill City and severely injured the city governor of Mound Hill City. Then, in front of the city governor of Mound Hill City, he took away his disciple, Su Qi, who had been following him since the beginning. Ling Yun still remembered. At that time, in the eyes of that Zhou Qi, whether it was him, Xionghu, Jin Yuan Bao, or even Duan Lingtian, they were all not worth mentioning. In Zhou Qi's eyes, only Su Qi was the most important. Senior brother Duan's innate talent is even more powerful than Su Qi. I'm really curious to see the expression on Lu Huan and his disciples' faces when they find out about this. Ling Yun thought to himself. What Ling Yun thought of came true that very night. Due to the enmity between the Moon Illumination sect's inner court elder Lu Huan and the city governor of Mound Hill City, Fang Hui's every move throughout the years was monitored by Lu Huan's people. Today, when the Moon Illumination sect held the entrance assessment to recruit new disciples, Lu Huan's people were also paying attention to it. Due to this reason, Lu Huan's favorite disciple, Zhou Qi, received the news that night. You may leave now. In the front courtyard of a spacious mansion in the inner court of the Moon Illumination sect, Zhou Qi said in a slightly irritated manner. Yes. The person who came to inform him immediately left the mansion. I can't believe that Fang Hui's luck is so good. First it's Su Qi and now it's Duan Lingtian. Zhou Qi's face turned slightly grave. Even he had to admit that Fang Hui's luck was ridiculously good. Su Qi came from the mortal continent, and he was a talent that could be molded. His innate talent far surpassed his own. Even he had to admit this. Due to this reason, Su Qi received special care from his master, Elder Lu Huan, after he brought him back. His ability had improved by leaps and bounds in the past 6 months. Now he had even reached the peak of the Paramount Mortal Shedding stage. In terms of ability, he could be ranked at the top even in the outer court. In the past 6 months, even he was a little jealous of his master, Elder Lu Huan, for taking care of Su Qi. However, compared to Duan Lingtian, Su Qi's improvement in the past 6 months and his innate talent seemed to be nothing. The reason Zhou Qi's attitude changed was all because of Duan Lingtian. He defeated Zhengji, who was ranked 85th in the outer court with his cultivation base at the Mastery Mortal Shedding stage. It was a one-sided fight. I've confirmed that Zhengji didn't know him before this. Zhou Qi muttered to himself. He defeated someone who was close to the peak of the Paramount Mortal Shedding stage with his cultivation base at the Mastery Mortal Shedding stage. No matter how monstrous he is, he shouldn't be able to do that, right? This isn't an ordinary fight that's 2 levels higher. Of course, there's another possibility. Duan Lingtian has broken through to the Perfection Mortal Shedding stage after the Outer Court Deacon detected his cultivation base. Although it's still ridiculous for him to defeat Zheng Ji with his cultivation base at the Perfection Mortal Shedding stage, it's not impossible. Zhou Qi defined Duan Lingtian's cultivation base in his heart. He thought Duan Lingtian was already at the Perfection Mortal Shedding stage. He thought so because he thought it was impossible for Duan Lingtian to defeat someone who was close to the peak of the Paramount Mortal Shedding stage with his cultivation base at the Mastery Mortal Shedding stage. Naturally, someone who was ranked 85th in the Outer Court would not be an ordinary person. If he was an ordinary person, he would have been kicked out of the independent courtyard long ago. I'll have to tell Master about this matter. However, before that, I should still look for junior brother Su. I've never heard him mention anything about Duan Lingtian before this. Zhou Qi went to look for Su Qi as he thought of this. Half a year ago, after Su Qi was brought back to the Moon Illumination sect by Zhou Qi, he became an inner court disciple under the recommendation of the inner court elder, Lu Huan. Only the sect's high-ranking officials who were at least inner court elders had the right to make such a recommendation. Even the inner court deacons who were equivalent to the outer court elders in the Moon Illumination sect were not allowed to make a recommendation to become an outer court disciple, let alone an inner court disciple. The young geniuses who were found by the outer court elders had to participate in the entrance assessment obediently. Although the outer court elders, inner court deacons and inner court elders were only 1 level apart, the gap was like a chasm. In the Moon Illumination sect, only the sect's high-ranking officials who were at least inner court elders and above were considered to be at the highest decision-making level. Although the inner court elders had a lofty position, they also needed to have a powerful martial strength to support them. To become an inner court elder, one must be a Paramount Saint Rudiment stage powerhouse. Only a Paramount Saint Rudiment stage powerhouse could stand at the highest level in the Moon Illumination sect and laugh at the wind and clouds. After becoming an inner court disciple of the Moon Illumination sect, Su Qi stayed in Lu Huan's mansion. He had his own independent courtyard here. During this half a year, he had been living in seclusion. Due to Lu Huan's guidance and special care, his cultivation base had improved by leaps and bounds. Junior brother. Su Qi, who was deducing the Saint-grade martial tactic in the small courtyard, suddenly heard the voice from outside. He stopped what he was doing and had a puzzled expression on his face. Naturally, he could tell who the owner of the voice was. However, he was puzzled. Why was the person looking for him? During this half a year, the person had not taken the initiative to look for him since he brought him back. Moreover, as time went by, the person seemed to be intentionally or unintentionally distancing himself from him. As for the reason, it was not difficult for him to figure it out. The person was undoubtedly jealous because his master doted on him more. Senior brother. Su Qi did not dare to be arrogant in front of Zhou Qi. When he heard the voice, he immediately opened the courtyard door and welcomed Zhou Qi in. Junior brother, have you gotten used to living here during this half a year? Zhou Qi asked with a smile. However, his smile seemed fake no matter how one looked at it. Yes. Su Qi did not nod. He merely nodded in response. Junior brother, you should know that there's a disciple under the city governor of Mound Hill City called Duan Lingtian, right? Zhou Qi's eyes gleamed as he looked directly at Su Qi. He went straight to the point. Duan Lingtian. When Su Qi heard this name again, he could not help but feel a ripple in his heart. Previously, even his master, Fang Hui, the city governor of Mound Hill City, thought he was inferior to Duan Lingtian. He even advised Duan Lingtian not to compete with him for the position of eldest senior brother. Due to this reason, he had challenged Duan Lingtian to a battle. Before the result was out, Zhou Qi had arrived and interrupted him. Although the battle was inconclusive, he had to admit that as someone from the mortal continent, Duan Lingtian's innate talent and strength were indeed superior to his. Naturally, he was no longer the same person he was half a year ago. His strength had improved by leaps and bounds in this half a year. If he encountered Duan Lingtian again, he was confident he could win. Yes. Su Qi nodded in response to Zhou Qi's question. He had secretly calculated the time earlier. Today seemed to be the day of the entrance assessment that was held once every 5 years in the Moon Illumination sect. Duan Lingtian must have come on behalf of Mound Hill City. It seems like Duan Lingtian did well in the entrance assessment. Otherwise, Zhou Qi wouldn't have been alerted. It was not difficult for Su Qi to figure this out. As soon as he entered the sect, he defeated Zheng Ji, who's ranked number 85 in the outer court. He's an outer court disciple who's close to the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage. Zhou Qi said, "What?" Chapter 1436. Although Su Qi had entered the inner court and became an inner court disciple as soon as he entered the Moon Illumination sect. However, he also knew some things about the outer sect. In the outer court, those who were ranked in the top 100 could stay in the best independent courtyard. The weakest among these people was close to the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage. It was said that the outer court disciples who were ranked in the top 50 were almost all at the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage. Especially those who were ranked at the top, they were powerful people who were listed in the Earth ranking. The Earth ranking was a list that included the 9 sect alliances. It included the top 100 most outstanding powerhouses at the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage in the 9 sect alliances. The 9 sect alliances were formed by 9 seventh-rate sections. They were meant to unite and defend against the invasion of sixth-rate forces. The Moon Illumination sect was one of the seventh-rate sections. The powerhouses at the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage who were listed in the Earth ranking were all at the peak of the mortal shedding stage. Those who were ranked at the bottom had abilities that were on par with ordinary early Saint Rudiment stage martial and Dao cultivators. Those who were ranked at the top had the ability to defeat ordinary early Saint Rudiment stage martial and Dao cultivators. It seems like Su Qi doesn't know Duan Lingtian's ability either. Zhou Qi knew what was going on when he saw the shock on Su Qi's face. Duan Lingtian defeated Zheng Ji one-sidedly from the beginning until the end. Zheng Ji didn't even have the ability to fight back at all. I'm afraid he's even more powerful than you, junior brother Su. Zhou Qi continued to provoke Su Qi intentionally or unintentionally. One-sidedly? Su Qi had to admit that Zhou Qi's words had shocked him again. It seems like Duan Lingtian's ability has improved a lot in this 6 months. Perhaps he was stronger than me 6 months ago, but it's definitely not this exaggerated. Su Qi secretly inhaled a cold breath of air. 6 months ago, the battle between him and Duan Lingtian did not end because of Zhou Qi's appearance. However, he knew himself very well. He knew Duan Lingtian's ability was slightly stronger than his. Of course, he didn't win by much. He had originally thought that his strength, which had increased by leaps and bounds in this half a year, had already left Duan Lingtian behind. But he had never expected that Duan Lingtian's strength was also increasing at an extremely terrifying speed. Of course, even so, he did not think that Duan Lingtian could defeat him. Even if he were to face the person ranked 85th in the outer sect, he was confident that he could one-sidedly crush him. Therefore, he felt that Duan Lingtian's strength should be on par with his. When Zhou Qi saw that Su Qi did not reply to him, he frowned with a displeased expression on his face. However, his brows quickly relaxed again, and a hypocritical smile appeared on his face again. Junior brother Su, you and that Duan Lingtian were once fellow disciples after all. Are you interested in meeting him? Senior brother Zhou, I'm not familiar with him. Su Qi replied nonchalantly. How could he not see that Zhou Qi was trying to sow discord between them? If there's nothing else, I won't send you off, senior brother Zhou. I'm planning to return to my room to cultivate. After he finished speaking, he turned around and returned to his room without waiting for Zhou Qi's reply. Zhou Qi's expression turned gloomy when he saw Su Qi closing the door. This Su Qi dares to look down on me just because he has master's protection. Damn it. Half a year ago, Su Qi was as docile as a cat in front of him. However, at this moment, the cat seemed to have transformed into a tiger and was about to suppress him. He found it difficult to accept this. However, he knew that Su Qi was already powerful. With his master's protection, even if he was his senior brother, he did not dare to openly bully Su Qi. He did not doubt that his master would disregard their many years of master-disciple relationship for the sake of this disciple whom he had only accepted half a year ago. His master valued the martial Dao innate talent of his disciples the most. He couldn't be any more clear about this. If he and Su Qi were in trouble at the same time, and his master could only save one of them, his master would definitely save Su Qi. He did not doubt this at all. Perhaps. There's no need to tell master about Duan Lingtian for the time being. Ever since Su Qi came, master has been living in seclusion. He might not know about what's going on outside no matter how much the rumors spread. Suddenly, a crazy idea appeared in Zhou Qi's mind. Cripple him. Zhou Qi planned to cripple Duan Lingtian. In terms of innate talent, Duan Lingtian is even higher than Su Qi. Now that Master has Su Qi as his disciple, my status has plummeted. If there's another Duan Lingtian, where's my status? Zhou Qi's heart skipped a beat. If his master knew that Duan Lingtian's innate talent was higher than Su Qi's and that Duan Lingtian was from the city governor's estate of Mound Hill City, his master would definitely accept Duan Lingtian as his direct disciple. That was not what he wanted to see. His current idea was simple. He wanted to cripple Duan Lingtian. In that case, even if his master found out about Duan Lingtian's innate talent, he would only reprimand him. However, Duan Lingtian would no longer be his master's direct disciple. Half a year ago, it was Master who asked me to bring Duan Lingtian back to the Moon Illumination sect. I didn't have a choice and ended up nurturing a tiger. This time, I must cripple Duan Lingtian before Master discovers his innate talent. Zhou Qi's eyes gleamed coldly. Naturally, he wanted to cripple Duan Lingtian so that Duan Lingtian would never be able to make a comeback. Naturally, there was a rule in the Moon Illumination sect that no one was allowed to kill or injure. Those who killed would usually be sentenced to death. However, those who injured would be able to escape death. Although the punishment was severe, there was no need for revenge. Zhou Qi wanted to cripple Duan Lingtian. At that time, no matter how high Duan Lingtian's innate talent was, his master would not take a fancy to him. As long as his master did not take a fancy to him, he would not be able to compete with him and ride on his head like Su Qi did. I think Su Qi won't bring up Duan Lingtian in front of Master. In that case, my plan can be carried out smoothly. Zhou Qi had a mature idea in his mind. The moment he thought of this, he left the mansion and the inner court and went to the outer court. Soon after, a person appeared next to Zhou Qi in a remote place in the outer court. It was a middle-aged man. Based on his appearance, he could be Zhou Qi's father. However, this middle-aged man was very respectful in front of Zhou Qi. Lin Fu, you should know that I won't look for you if there's nothing important. Since I'm looking for you, it's only natural that I have something for you to do. Zhou Qi said nonchalantly. Yes. Senior brother Zhou, I wonder if there's anything you need from me? Lin Fu asked respectfully. I heard that there's a new disciple called Duan Lingtian in the outer court. As soon as he arrived, he defeated Zheng Ji, who was ranked 85th in the outer court? Zhou Qi asked. That's true. I've heard about it as well. Lin Fu nodded. I even went to look for Zheng Ji. However, Zheng Ji said that his strength might not be inferior to Duan Lingtian. The reason he was defeated was because Duan Lingtian used a demonic technique. Demonic technique? Zhou Qi frowned. What do you mean? He said. There were 2 times when his attack was clearly about to land on Duan Lingtian, but it shifted to Duan Lingtian's side in the end. Therefore he could not attack Duan Lingtian. Lin Fu told Zhou Qi everything he learned from Zheng Ji. Duan Lingtian took advantage of this opportunity to severely injure him twice, causing him to be unable to retaliate at all. He's not as good as him, yet he still finds so many excuses. What demonic technique? Who would believe that? Zhou Qi snorted coldly. I don't think it's believable either. Lin Fu nodded. I guess Zheng Ji is unwilling to admit defeat. That's why he came up with such a lousy excuse. However, he didn't think about it. Even if this excuse of his spreads, who would believe him? Let's not talk about this for now. Zhou Qi went straight to the point. Lin Fu, the thing I asked you to do is closely related to my master. Therefore you must do it well. It's related to Elder Lu Huan? Upon hearing that, Lin Fu was instantly energized as though he had been reborn. Please tell me, Senior Brother Zhou. His master was the outer court deacon of the Moon Illumination sect. When he was young, he was by Elder Lu Huan's side and had a good relationship with him. However, in reality he was just a follower. It was just that Lin Fu was unwilling to admit it. Due to this reason, Lin Fu could be considered as Lu Huan's follower. Do you know that Duan Lingtian is from Mound Hill City? Zhou Qi said bluntly. Mound Hill City? Upon hearing Zhou Qi's words, Lin Fu's eyes narrowed immediately. He had a shocked expression on his face. Naturally, he was not unfamiliar with Mound Hill City. Moreover, it was impossible for anyone who was by Elder Lu Huan's side to not know about Mound Hill City. It was not because Mound Hill City was one of the 18 cities under the Moon Illumination sect, but because of the enmity between Fang Hui, the city governor of Mound Hill City, and Elder Lu Huan. Senior Brother Zhou, didn't you bring Fang Hui's most outstanding disciple, Su Qi, back to the sect half a year ago? Why didn't you bring Duan Lingtian back with you? His innate talent seems to be on par with Su Qi. Lin Fu asked in confusion. Half a year ago, I didn't see that his innate talent was higher than Su Qi's. However, I had the intention to bring him back and ask him to be my master's disciple, but he rejected me. Not only that, but he rejected me firmly. Zhou Qi spouted nonsense. If I had known that his innate talent was higher than Su Qi's, I would have killed him on the spot. It was my mistake for not killing him back then. However, I didn't expect that my mistake back then would cause me trouble. Zhou Qi was furious. He really doesn't know how to appreciate my kindness. A hint of jealousy flashed through Lin Fu's eyes. His face turned cold as he asked, "Senior brother Zhou, is the thing you want me to do related to Duan Lingtian?" "That's right." Zhou Qi nodded. "Your ability is at the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage. You're ranked 47th in the outer court. I want you to issue a challenge to Duan Lingtian and force him to come out and fight you. Senior brother Zhou, since he could single-handedly suppress Zhengji, his ability is on par with mine at the very least. He might even be stronger than me. I'm afraid I can't teach him a lesson." Chapter 1437. You don't have to teach him a lesson. Zhou Qi shook his head. I don't have to teach him a lesson? Lin Fu was confused. He could not figure out what Zhou Qi was trying to do. My purpose is to let you test his strength. I'll find someone to deal with him later, Zhou Qi said indifferently. Lin Fu nodded. I understand now. Lin Fu nodded. That's simple. It was indeed simple. To him it was just another duel invitation. Even if he was no match for Duan Lingtian in the end, he would at most be taught a lesson. With the sex rules, he did not believe that Duan Lingtian would dare to cripple him, let alone kill him. If there was no duel invitation, he would have to pay with his life for killing someone. I'll wait for your good news tomorrow. After saying that, Zhou Qi left the outer court and returned to the inner court under the cover of the night. The next morning, Lin Fu went to look for outer court elder Dong Chong. Elder Dong Chong, I'd like to write a duel invitation, and I'd like you to put your fingerprint on it. As Lin Fu spoke, he took out the duel invitation he had prepared. Lin Fu, who do you want to challenge this time? Dong Chong took the duel invitation and asked with a smile before he even had the time to read it. Lin Fu was ranked 47th in the Moon Illumination Sect's outer court, and he had fought his way up. When he saw that Lin Fu wanted to write a duel invitation, he thought that Lin Fu wanted to challenge the outer court disciple who was ranked higher than him. Elder Dong Chong, the person I want to challenge this time is a little special. Lin Fu smiled faintly. Huh. Out of curiosity, Dong Chong looked at the duel invitation in his hand. When he saw the 3 words Duan Lingtian on it, he could not help but be stunned. Why you want to challenge that new disciple? Yes. Lin Fu nodded. Lin Fu, you better think this through. Currently, this Duan Lingtian is only ranked 85th in the outer court. If you challenge him, it'll be fine if you win, but if you lose, you'll drop a rank. And he'll be promoted to 47th because of you. Dong Chong said with a complicated gaze. Duan Lingtian was the young genius he had his eyes on during the entrance assessment yesterday. Unfortunately, Duan Lingtian was unwilling to acknowledge him as his master. When the entrance exam ended and he returned to the outer court, he could not help but be dumbstruck when he heard about the strength Duan Lingtian had displayed when he defeated Zhengji. At that moment, the resentment in his heart due to Duan Lingtian's rejection also disappeared without a trace. He knew that with Duan Lingtian's talent and strength, he was not qualified to be Duan Lingtian's teacher. Even if he forcefully accepted Duan Lingtian as his disciple, he would only mislead him. I thought about it. Lin Fu nodded and replied casually. He issued a challenge to Duan Lingtian not because he wanted to defeat the Duan Lingtian, but because he wanted to find out more about the Duan Lingtian so that his senior brother Zhou Qi could think of a way to deal with the Duan Lingtian. Even if he lost, he would only be pushed back by 1 place. It was not a big deal. Moreover, if Duan Lingtian's strength was above his, even without his challenge, the Duan Lingtian would still be able to surpass him. At that time, he would still be pushed back by 1 place. What do you think of Duan Lingtian? Dong Chong asked as he pressed his fingerprint on the challenge letter in his hand. The challenge letter was made of a special paper. One only needed to wrap one's true energy around one's finger and press it, and a fingerprint would appear on it. I suspect that Duan Lingtian has broken through to the perfection mortal shedding stage after the first stage of the entrance assessment, Lin Fu said. It's unrealistic for a mastery mortal shedding stage to defeat someone who's close to the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage. I have the same thought as well. I can take this opportunity to find out the truth since you've issued a challenge to him. Dong Chong nodded and returned the challenge letter to Lin Fu. Thank you, Elder Dong Chong. After receiving the challenge letter, Lin Fu went to the independent courtyard where Duan Lingtian lived without hesitation. The independent courtyard originally belonged to Tsengji, so Lin Fu was very familiar with the place. Standing outside the courtyard, Lin Fu lifted his hand and threw the challenge letter out. He used his hidden force so that the challenge letter would fit perfectly on the gap of the door that was tightly shut. After glancing at the challenge letter, Lin Fu imprinted the scene before him into his eyes and memorized it in his mind before he left. As long as Duan Lingtian opened his door, the challenge letter would fall. At that time, even if he wanted to return the challenge letter to its original state, it would not be able to return to the way Lin Fu memorized it in his mind. At that time, even if Duan Lingtian wanted to shut himself in, Lin Fu would still be able to barge in. At that time, it would not be against the sect's rules to barge in. Challenge letter? When Duan Lingtian opened his door and walked out to pick up the challenge letter from the ground, it was already a month later. Naturally, he had spent 3 months on the second level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Lin Fu? After opening the challenge letter, Duan Lingtian saw the name of the person who wrote the challenge letter. After casually putting away the challenge letter, Duan Lingtian walked out of the courtyard. So, I just wanted to come out to relax and see where Ling Yun and Jianghu are staying. I didn't expect that there would be someone waiting for me to come out. Looking at the challenge letter in his hand, Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled. Senior brother, do you know Lin Fu? Duan Lingtian asked with a smile as he stopped an outer court disciple who was walking by not far away. I do. The outer court disciple nodded and asked with a smile, You're a new disciple who just entered the sect a month ago, right? This outer court disciple just happened to be cultivating in seclusion a month ago. Therefore, although he had heard of Duan Lingtian's name, he had never seen Duan Lingtian before. Therefore, he did not recognize Duan Lingtian immediately. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded. He could guess why the outer court disciple asked such a question. He knew very well that from the moment he defeated Tsengji, he must have become famous in the outer court district. All the outer court disciples knew that he was staying in the independent courtyard where Tsengji used to live. The person who dared to issue a challenge letter to him would definitely not be weaker than Tsengji. Such a person must be well known in the outer court. Only the new disciples who had just entered the Moon Illumination sect like him a month ago would not know. Junior brother, when you mention senior brother Lin Fu in the future, you can't directly call him by his name. Senior brother Lin Fu is an existence that's ranked 47th in our outer court. The outer court disciple who was stopped by Duan Lingtian said with a fearful expression. 47th in the outer court? Duan Lingtian came to a realization. Just as he thought, the person who issued the challenge letter was not an ordinary outer court disciple. Tsengji is ranked 85th, and he's close to the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage. Lin Fu who issued the challenge letter must be at the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage without a doubt. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. Great. Although I'm still a step away from breaking through to the perfection mortal shedding stage, my body has undergone tremendous changes due to the integration of the 5-clawed devil dragon's blood essence. Since Lin Fu is here, it's a good opportunity for me to practice. Duan Lingtian's battle intent rose in his heart. Although his cultivation base had not broken through yet, his body had undergone a transformation, and his physical strength had improved a lot. Now he was confident he could defeat Tsengji even without using the strange pupil's ability. If it was someone like Tsengji, he would not be interested at all. However, Lin Fu was suspected to be at the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage. Senior brother, have you heard of Duan Lingtian? Duan Lingtian asked the outer court disciple in front of him suddenly as a thought flashed in his mind. How could I not? The outer court disciple said matter-of-factly, he's the most monstrous existence among the new batch of outer court disciples. He even broke the sect's long-standing record and became the first person to stay in the independent courtyard area as soon as he entered the sect. Now, let alone the outer court district, I'm afraid many people in the inner court district have heard of his name. The outer court disciple finished his sentence in one breath. Duan Lingtian nodded. He wasn't surprised by this. The reason why he asked was just to confirm it. With my current reputation in the outer court, Lin Fu must be at the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage since he dares to challenge me. It seems like I'll have a chance to loosen my muscles again after 3 months. The moment he thought of this, Duan Lingtian looked at the outer court disciple and asked with a smile, Senior brother, do you know which independent courtyard Lin Fu is staying in? It's Duan Lingtian's senior brother. It's really him. Before the outer court disciple could speak, the other two outer court disciples who were passing by exclaimed in surprise. Their eyes were filled with respect when they looked at Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian? The outer court disciple who was stopped by Duan Lingtian earlier could not help but be dumbfounded when he heard the two outer court disciples' words. The purple-clad young man standing in front of him was Duan Lingtian? Senior brother, I didn't mean to hide it. It's just that I saw Lin Fu's challenge letter as soon as I came out, so I was prepared to accept the challenge. Duan Lingtian smiled apologetically and waved the challenge letter in his hand. Senior brother Lin Fu, he issued a challenge letter to you? When the outer court disciple standing in front of Duan Lingtian heard this, his eyes could not help but narrow, and his face was filled with shock. After a long while, he finally regained his senses and smiled awkwardly. Senior brother Duan, I didn't know your identity earlier. I'm so rude. In the martial artist world, the one who has reached the top comes first. You can just call me junior brother in the future. Duan Lingtian shook his head and sighed inwardly. Another person like Yang He. Senior brother Lin Fu is challenging senior brother Duan Lingtian? As for the two outer sect disciples who were passing by, they immediately spread the news. In just 15 minutes, almost all the outer court disciples who were not cultivating in closed-door cultivation in the entire outer court knew about this shocking news. Naturally, they were no strangers to Lin Fu. He was ranked 47th in the outer court. His strength was so powerful that he had even reached the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage. They were also no strangers to Duan Lingtian. He was someone who had defeated and replaced the person who was ranked 85th in the outer court when he had just entered the sect. Now Lin Fu had issued a challenge letter to Duan Lingtian. If I went into closed-door cultivation earlier, I would have missed this battle. Let's go and join in the fun. Senior brother Duan Lingtian is too powerful. He accepted the challenge directly. He's a real man. I hope senior brother Lin Fu didn't go into closed-door cultivation. If that's the case, we'll be able to see this fierce battle today. Chapter 1438. At the training field in the Moon Illumination Sect's outer court area. A group of outer court disciples had cleared out an empty space in the middle of the training field. In the empty space, a young man and a middle-aged man were standing opposite each other, fighting each other. Whoosh. Without warning, the young man raised his hand, and a special piece of paper that was light as a feather flew out. It only stopped in front of the middle-aged man. There were 2 lines of words written on the special piece of paper. Apart from that, there were 3 fingerprints on it. It was a dual invitation. Although I don't know why you're issuing me a dual invitation, it's not important anymore. After Duan Lingtian sent the dual invitation out, he said to Lin Fu calmly. Yes, it's not important anymore. Lin Fu put the dual invitation away. When he looked at Duan Lingtian again, his eyes gleamed. You, Duan Lingtian, have just entered the sect, but you've already stirred up such a huge commotion in the outer court. Today I, Lin Fu, will teach you a lesson and let you know that us, the senior outer court disciples, are not to be trifled with. I've never thought that you, the senior outer court disciples, are to be trifled with. The conflict between Zhengji and I was caused by him. Everyone knows this. Duan Lingtian said nonchalantly. The onlookers nodded their heads in agreement. All of them knew this. Cut the crap. Let's fight. Lin Fu sneered. You're the one who started the nonsense first, aren't you? Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled faintly. He seemed a little helpless. Many people in the surrounding began to laugh at once. You're seeking death. Lin Fu's face turned grave. Without wasting any more time, his body moved as though he had transformed into a giant rock. His true energy spread out, and it was as though he was flapping his wings as he soared into the sky. In just a blink of an eye, Lin Fu had already arrived in front of Duan Lingtian. A 3-foot-long blade appeared in his hand out of thin air. It shone with a dazzling true energy as he pointed it at Duan Lingtian. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Lin Fu pointed out his sword, and a series of sword whistling sounds came from the void. Specks of sword light were like a meteor shower, directly rushing towards Duan Lingtian. Body and arrow synchronization. When Lin Fu had arrived in front of him, Duan Lingtian had already taken out his sun-shooting bow. Seeing Lin Fu draw his sword, he also shot an arrow with all his might. Then Duan Lingtian stepped on the arrow and flew out, causing Lin Fu's sword move to miss completely. Eat my arrow too, Duan Lingtian said faintly. He raised his hand and an arrow condensed from his Zhen Qi flew out. How do you shoot it into the sky? When they saw Duan Lingtian shoot an arrow into the sky, many people couldn't help but be startled. However, they soon got their answer. An arrow soared into the sky, and in the blink of an eye, thousands of arrow lights whistled down like a real meteor shower. The power was far from what Lin Fu's sword could compare to. If Lin Fu's previous sword move was like a drizzle, the specks of sword light were like a drizzle. In that case, Duan Lingtian's meteor arrow shower was like a heavy rain. The heavy rain poured down and shrouded Lin Fu, leaving him with nowhere to hide. Insignificant skill. After all, Lin Fu was at the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage. He sneered and shook the 3-foot-long sword in his hand. It began to twist and turn in the void. Wherever the sword light reached, it turned into a vortex. Spiraling sword light. Many people exclaimed softly. It was obvious that they recognized Lin Fu's sword move. As the vortex soared into the sky, the rain of arrows that filled the sky was devoured by it. It was as if they had never appeared. Is that all you've got? Lin Fu sneered as he looked at Duan Lingtian who was flying far away on the arrow. Then take another arrow from me, Duan Lingtian said calmly. He lifted the sun-shooting bow with his left hand again. True energy shot out from his right hand and formed a sharp arrow light on the bowstring. The bowstring trembled slightly as Duan Lingtian slowly pulled it open. Although his cultivation base had broken through to the mastery mortal shedding stage and his body had undergone 2 transformations, he was still a long way from pulling the bowstring into a full moon. No matter what, the bowstring of the sun-shooting bow was the dragon tendon of the 5-clawed devil dragon. With his current strength he could not fully pull it open. He pulled the bow and arrow and focused his eyes. At that moment, Duan Lingtian's aura seemed to have undergone a tremendous change. This was something that even the group of outer court disciples who were spectating had noticed. Senior brother Duan is going all out. Jianghu was a little excited among the crowd. Ling Yun stood next to him. Although he did not say anything, his eyes were filled with anticipation. As the arrow under his feet faded and disappeared, Duan Lingtian slowly landed on the ground. However, in his eyes, there seemed to be only one figure left, Lin Fu. After locking his gaze on Lin Fu, Duan Lingtian gradually loosened his grip on the arrow in his right hand. At that moment, Lin Fu's face turned solemn. At that moment he panicked for no reason. It was as if the arrow in Duan Lingtian's hand was some kind of scourge. Meteor strike. Finally, the arrow in Duan Lingtian's hand was released along with the vibration of the bowstring. It was as if it had turned into a bolt of lightning, causing everything around it to dim. At that moment, the bolt of lightning was like a shooting star that streaked across the pitch-black night sky. It was short but beautiful. At the same time Lin Fu made his move. His sword light shot out in all directions. Boom. Before the crowd of outer court disciples could react, a thunderous sound rang out beside their ears. Then they saw it clearly. Lin Fu, who was originally standing there in high spirits, was now on one knee with his sword supporting him. Half of his robe was torn. Not only that, his long hair was scattered on his shoulders along with the broken headband. Right now he was like a beggar. At the same time, with Lin Fu as the center, a raging gale swept out, blowing the robes of the surrounding people to the point that they fluttered in the wind, as if numerous elves were dancing gracefully. Wah! Lin Fu, whose face was flushed, could not hold on any longer and spat out a large mouthful of blood. When he raised his head to look at Duan Lingtian again, his eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. Earlier, the reason why he stood still and waited for Duan Lingtian to make his move was because he was confident in his own strength. He thought that he could take the arrow shot by Duan Lingtian. It was not until the arrow that was condensed from true energy collided with his strongest sword technique that he realized how naive he was. The power of Duan Lingtian's arrow was even more powerful than his sword technique. Although it was not much, at least it was a victory. Not only did it suppress his sword technique, but it also injured him, causing him to be in a sorry state. 47th Outer Court Disciple? That's all there is to it. Before the crowd could react, Duan Lingtian put away the sun-shooting bow and glanced at Lin Fu. Lin Fu was so angry that he spat out a few more mouthfuls of blood. Although Lin Fu felt wronged, he could not refute. Who asked him to be careless? Otherwise, even if he was going to lose in the end, he would not have lost in such a short time. When the crowd came back to their senses and was in an uproar, Duan Lingtian had already gathered with Ling Yun and Jianghu. Let's go. Let's find a place to talk. Duan Lingtian led the way. Wherever they passed, a group of outer court disciples would make way for them. The gazes that looked at Duan Lingtian were filled with reverence. In this world where the strong were respected, the strong were respected. This had nothing to do with whether Duan Lingtian had just entered the sect, nor did it have anything to do with his age or position. It was only when Duan Lingtian and the other two's figures disappeared that the group of outer court disciples came back to their senses. At the same time, a commotion broke the temporary silence. Senior brother Duan Lingtian's strength is too terrifying. Yes. That arrow was like a short-lived meteor in front of my eyes. Before I could react, the meteor had already fallen and injured senior brother Lin Fu. That arrow was indeed a stroke of genius. At the very least, even senior brother Lin Fu, who's ranked 47th in the outer court, couldn't withstand it. In my opinion, senior brother Duan's strength is at least ranked in the top 30 in the outer court. It's really hard to imagine that senior brother Duan is just an outer court disciple who has just entered the sect a month ago. He's not even 40 years old yet. His innate talent is extraordinary. The group of outer court disciples who were watching discussed animatedly. Their words were filled with admiration for Duan Lingtian. All of you seem to have forgotten something. Senior brother Duan was only at the mastery mortal shedding stage during the first stage of the entrance assessment a month ago. He's only at the mastery mortal shedding stage, but he defeated senior brother Zheng Ji, who's ranked 85th in the outer court, and senior brother Lin Fu, who's ranked 47th? That's impossible. I think senior brother Duan Lingtian must have broken through to the perfection mortal shedding stage before his battle with senior brother Zheng Ji. I think so too. Otherwise it's too exaggerated. The old man who was standing at the side of the training field shook his head when he heard the similar comments from many outer court disciples. There was a hint of shock on his face. This was because when he used his spiritual energy to probe Duan Lingtian's cultivation base earlier, he discovered that Duan Lingtian was still at the mastery mortal shedding stage. Could it be that Duan Lingtian knows a secret technique to conceal his cultivation base? If that's the case, then the spiritual secret tactics probe on him is meaningless. The old man was the outer court elder Dong Chong. The outer court elder's fingerprint on the battle invitation that Lin Fu sent to Duan Lingtian was also his. Senior brother Duan, what's wrong? Xiong, who could not help but ask in confusion when he saw Duan Lingtian suddenly turn around and frown. Nothing. Duan Lingtian shook his head, feeling slightly dissatisfied. He did not seem to have offended that outer court elder, Dong Chong, right? It was not the entrance assessment yet, but he still dared to probe him without fear. Did he really think that he did not have a temper? At this moment, Duan Lingtian's good impression of Dong Chong was completely gone. Where are all of you staying now? Chapter 1439. We're not as powerful as you, senior brother Duan. We're only staying in the wooden house area now. Xiong, who was a little embarrassed by Duan Lingtian's question. Now that you're in the limelight, Lu Huan will definitely find out soon. You'd better be careful from now on. It's best if you don't leave the sect. Ling Yun looked at Duan Lingtian and reminded him with a solemn expression. I'm afraid he already knows. Duan Lingtian replied nonchalantly. Huh. Ling Yun and Xiong, who were stunned. If I'm not wrong, that Lin Fu who sent me the letter of challenge should be someone from Lu Huan's faction. Although the excuse he gave sounded dignified, I could tell from his eyes that it wasn't his true intention. The eyes would never lie. Duan Lingtian had experienced 2 lifetimes. Coupled with the memories of the reincarnation Emperor Wu from his 2 lifetimes, he was naturally very accurate in judging people. If that Lin Fu is really from Lu Huan's faction, Lu Huan will definitely be furious if he's defeated by you. I'm afraid Lin Fu is just the beginning. Ling Yun said with fear on his face. All in all, Lu Huan's faction will definitely put their attention on me for the time being. Both of you should take this opportunity to cultivate properly and raise your abilities as soon as possible. Duan Lingtian said, if they realize that they can't deal with me in the sect, they'll definitely shift their attention to both of you. Ling Yun and Xiong, whose expressions turned solemn when they heard Duan Lingtian's words. They knew very well that Duan Lingtian was definitely not exaggerating. Both of them immediately bade farewell to Duan Lingtian and returned to their respective wooden houses to cultivate. Duan Lingtian's words gave them immense pressure as if a mountain was pressing down on them. Lu Huan. Duan Lingtian muttered softly as a cold gleam flickered in his eyes. If he had acknowledged Fang Hui, the city governor of Mound Hill City, as his teacher unwillingly, He would have stayed out of the matter between Fang Hui and Lu Huan. However, during the past half a year in Mound Hill City, Fang Hui had taken care of him from the bottom of his heart, so he sincerely regarded Fang Hui as his teacher. The incident that left the deepest impression on him was the incident with the Zheng family. The three from the Zheng family wanted to kill him while he was not in the city lord's mansion. The three of them were executed on the spot, but that was only the beginning. On that day, the entire Zheng family of New South Town was annihilated. All of this was the work of his teacher. Regardless of whether he agreed with Fang Hui's extreme actions, he felt warmth in his heart because Fang Hui was protecting him and standing up for him. He, Duanling Tian, wasn't a cold-hearted person. When he found out that his teacher, Fang Hui, had been humiliated by Lu Huan in the Moon Illumination sect, he had made up his mind. Apart from using the Moon Illumination sect as a stepping stone for him, he had come to the Moon Illumination sect to settle the matter of his teacher, Fang Hui. At the very least, Lu Huan must die. Naturally, there was also Lu Huan's direct disciple, Zhou Qi. Although there was a rule in the Moon Illumination sect that no killing was allowed, the so-called rule was merely a rule set by a powerhouse. In the future, he did not even need to be stronger than the few saint-stage powerhouses in the Moon Illumination sect. As long as he was on par with them, he would be able to stand on equal footing with them and ignore the rules set by them. Teacher, don't worry. I'll make sure you can hold your head high one day. Duanling Tian muttered to himself. After Lin Fu, Lu Huan's people will definitely have other tricks up their sleeves. The most important thing now is to break through to the perfection mortal shedding stage first. Although he had won the battle with Lin Fu quickly, it did not mean he had the ability to crush Lin Fu single-handedly. Although his ability had improved tremendously due to the second transformation of his body, he was still only at the perfection mortal shedding stage. However, he could only suppress Zheng Ji, who was at the paramount mortal shedding stage. The strength of a person at the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage was not something Zheng Ji could compare to. If Lin Fu had not been careless and underestimated him, he would not have had the confidence to defeat him within 30 moves. Naturally, this was under the condition that he did not use the strange pupil. When Duanling Tian returned to his independent courtyard to cultivate, the outer court district that had been quiet for a month was bustling again because of Duanling Tian. In the spacious mansion in the inner court district, Zhou Qi's face was grave when he heard about Lin Fu's battle. You went to look for Lin Fu that night. Senior brother Zhou, I've disappointed you. Lin Fu felt a little guilty when he saw Zhou Qi. You were defeated in just 2 moves. You're really something. How much do you know about his ability? Zhou Qi asked with a snort. Senior brother Zhou, I was careless today. Otherwise, he wouldn't have defeated me without at least 180 moves. Lin Fu felt a little aggrieved when he recalled the battle today. If he had not been careless, how could Duanling Tian have defeated him so easily? Didn't you hear what I said? Zhou Qi's face turned gloomy when he saw Lin Fu trying to change the topic. Senior brother Zhou, I don't dare to say anything else, but I've definitely figured out Duanling Tian's strength. He even used the silver shirt when he shot that last arrow. He must have used his full strength. He must have used all his strength, Lin Fu said immediately when he saw Zhou Qi's expression. Apart from being a defensive technique, the silver shirt could also strengthen one's body once it was used. This was not a secret. When Duanling Tian shot the arrow, he had used the silver shirt. It was obvious that he was accumulating all his strength for the attack. You think, with his ability he can be ranked in the top 30 in the outer court? Zhou Qi asked. That's about it. Lin Fu thought about it for a while and answered honestly. I can't believe that Mound Hill City has someone who's even more monstrous than Su Qi. This Duanling Tian must not be allowed to live. Once Master finds out about him, he'll definitely want to take him in as his direct disciple. Zhou Qi was a little anxious when he thought about this. He could not wait to rush into the small courtyard where Duanling Tian stayed and kill Duanling Tian. However, he calmed down in the end. He knew very well that he might be able to kill Duanling Tian, but after he killed Duanling Tian, he would still have to pay with his life for Duanling Tian. Therefore, even if he wanted Duanling Tian to die, he would not be stupid enough to do it himself. Even if I can't do it, someone has to do it. With Duanling Tian's innate talent, once he's taken in as Master's direct disciple, I'm afraid his status will be higher than Su Qi's. Zhou Qi did not doubt this at all. He was almost certain now. Duanling Tian's innate talent could only be higher than Su Qi's. Senior brother Zhou. When Lin Fu saw that Zhou Qi did not speak for a long time and only had a change of expression on his face, He could not help but call out to Zhou Qi. Zhou Qi returned to his senses and glanced at Lin Fu indifferently. Lin Fu, you don't have to care about Duan Lingtian anymore. Just watch the show. If you dare to spread rumors, I won't let you off. I won't. Lin Fu hurriedly shook his head and promised solemnly. Get lost. Zhou Qi snorted. He did not like Lin Fu no matter how he looked at him now. Lin Fu sighed in relief. When he turned around and left, he ran faster than a rabbit as though he saw Zhou Qi as a scourge. His strength can be ranked in the top 30 in the outer court. Roughly ranked 30th in the outer court? This result is acceptable and within my expectations, Zhou Qi muttered to himself. Zhou Qi muttered to himself confidently. Duan Lingtian did not know that someone was thinking of all sorts of ways to harm him. Currently, he was cultivating diligently on the second level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. 9 Dragons War Sovereign Technique, 9 Dragons Transformation. The 5 dragons carried the heaven and earth spirit energy in the air and the saint stones. They shuttled through the 52 saint veins in Duan Lingtian's body and circulated one major circulatory cycle after another. After each major circulatory cycle, the heaven and earth spirit energy would turn into true energy and merge with his basketball-sized Qi. His basketball-sized Qi was only a little bit away from being filled to the brim. I'll definitely be able to open a perfection mortal shedding stage Qi within a month. I'll definitely be able to open a new saint vein in 2 months. Duan Lingtian was filled with confidence. Now, what he was looking forward to the most was how many saint veins he could open after breaking through to the perfection mortal shedding stage. He was only at the mastery mortal shedding stage now, but he had already opened 52 saint veins. He had just broken through to the mastery mortal shedding stage and had opened an additional 20 saint veins. In other words, the number of saint veins he would open this time would start from 21. Even if I only open an additional 21 saint veins this time, I'll only open an additional 22 saint veins after breaking through to the paramount mortal shedding stage. I opened a total of 95 saint veins when I was at the paramount mortal shedding stage. Moreover, this is just a conservative estimate. Duan Lingtian's heartbeat quickened as he thought about this. Cultivate. Currently, Duan Lingtian was eager to know how many saint veins he would open when he broke through to the perfection mortal shedding stage. He was not worried about his ability after he had broken through. This was because he would definitely be more powerful than he was now. Moreover, he would be on a completely different level. Mound Hill City was far away from the Moon Illumination sect. Fang Hui, the city governor of Mound Hill City, had left the Moon Illumination sect and returned to the city governor's estate of Mound Hill City after the entrance assessment of the Moon Illumination sect ended. However, he had his own way of finding out what had happened in the Moon Illumination sect. He defeated the outer court disciple who ranked 85th in the outer court when he just entered the sect. After a month, he defeated the outer court disciple who ranked 47th in the outer court. Even Fang Hui could not help but stand up from his seat when he heard the news. He had a shocked expression on his face. Although he knew Duan Lingtian's innate talent and ability were extraordinary among the younger generation, he did not expect Duan Lingtian to be so monstrous. To him, only the Moon Illumination sect is worth his time. My city governor's estate of Mound Hill City is still too small to accommodate him. I'm afraid even the Moon Illumination sect might not be able to accommodate him after a few years. The smile on Fang Hui's face never faded. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.